All right, good evening. The time being 7:10 on July 13th, 2020. All members of the planning board being present, call this meeting to order. For those at home, as a reminder, channels are for Comcast, channel 99, and for Verizon, channel 33. If you want to call in on one of the public hearing issues, the call-in number is 978-771-0819. If for any reason you can't get on, we have a 3-person queue, so you can call back as people drop off, space will open up. So don't call too soon on an issue, because you may have a hard time getting through if someone's waiting to speak about something that we're actually discussing at the time. That would be helpful. With that, move to our first item of the agenda, which is approval of minutes for June 8th, 2020.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Vinnie Fratalia here. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of June 8th, 2020 as written.
All right, I have a motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
The motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to agenda item B, committee reports, administrative actions. Do any of the members have any committee reports they wish to make at this time?
No, all set, Mr. Chairman, on my end.
All right, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item B, which is reorganization of the board. So with Ms. McGinty, she can take over for a second and take nominations for chairman.
This is Jay Delaney. I'd like to nominate Bob Fowler as chairman of the board.
Okay.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. So, okay.
Okay, I nominate Bob Fowler as chairman.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not sure how to proceed.
motion-
So, sorry.
Just say you have a motion made and seconded.
Okay.
If there are no other nominations, you can just go to a vote.
Okay. We have a motion made and second. Is there any other nominations? You repeat
don't
that? I'm
have-
not sure if someone spoke.
No.
I don't have any. Anna,
Okay.
done.
Okay, so we can move to a vote if there's no other nominations.
You just have to ask all those in favor.
Those in favor? We
Aye.
need to do a roll call, probably.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Delaney?
Aye.
Mr. Ryder?
Aye.
And Mr. Fratalia?
Aye.
And Mr. Fowler?
He's on mute.
Mr. Fowler?
Aye.
Okay. So the new
Did you
chair.
hear me?
Yep, so the
Yeah.
new chair is, so that's an anonymous vote for Mr. Fowler as chair.
Well, thank you, everybody. Do you want to continue, Anna? With the nominations?
Oh, yes, for the clerk, correct?
Vice Chair.
Oh, vice chair. Okay. Are there any nominations for the vice chair?
I'll make a motion to nominate Steve Johnson.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations? I'm hearing none. We can take a vote. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ryder?
Aye.
Mr. Delaney?
Aye.
Mr. Fratalia?
Aye.
and Mr. Fowler.
Aye.
Okay, so that's an anonymous vote for Mr. Johnson as vice chair. And now we have the clerk, I believe.
Yes.
Make
Okay,
a motion for Mr. Fratalia as clerk.
Second?
okay, so we have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations for the clerk?
I'll make a motion for, Mr. Ryder.
We have a motion. Is there a second for Mr. Ryder as clerk?
I'll second that.
Okay,
Isn't always this is Jay Delaney. Isn't there always a standard that the newly elected member becomes the clerk?
Oh, thanks, Jim.
That's what we do.
I always thought that.
Okay.
okay, so I'm going to take a roll call if there's no other nominations. Mr. Johnson?
Which are we voting on right now?
I don't know.
I was
how
hoping she
Steve
wasn't going
said
to catch that, Steve.
Let me put it this way, because we had a nomination and a second for Mr. Fratalia, but I noticed Mr. Fratalia seconded someone else's nomination. So I
That's
feel
right. Yes. Notice that, Steve.
Nomination for Mr. Fratalia.
it, so,
I'll say no to the nomination, please.
so no. I'm not sure if I need to have a motion again for Mr. Ryder as clerk.
I don't believe so. I think there was a nomination second, correct?
Yes.
So,
That's
There was
correct.
a second. So I think we should go to a vote for Mr. Ryder as clerk.
That's
Okay,
good.
Okay, so Mr. Fowler,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Delaney,
Aye.
Mr. Ryder,
aye.
Mr. Fratalia.
All right.
Okay, so that's an anonymous vote for Mr. Ryder as clerk.
Congrats to you guys.
Thank you.
Good job, Eric.
Thank you.
All right, I'm putting myself on mute.
The list of committee assignments.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to stay on my committee as the local housing partnership representative from the planning board.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to stay on the elementary school building committee as well, please.
I'm fine with staying on the economic development, but I'm not going to be able to
Right.
keep doing the NEMCOG one. I just took that over when it was dropped last time, so I'd just rather stay on the one.
Anna, do you have the list in front of you?
I do not. Yeah, it wasn't provided to me, I don't believe. No.
No, okay. Did you hear what Mr. Johnson said, Mr. Ryder said, and Mr. Delaney said?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And I would like to stay on my, I'm
Actually,
sorry, I would like to stay on the reuse committee.
okay. So yes, I do have that list in front of me. So,
Okay.
so we're, all right. So you want to reduce me. And then there's just a zoning bylaw committee.
But I'm also on the school reuse committee.
Yep, I have that.
Okay. I'd like to stay on both of those.
Okay. So we'll just need a nomination for the MCOG.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Jay Delaney for an MCOG committee.
For what committee?
MCOG.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Good luck, Mr. Diarra.
Well, I think as a senior member, that's like a responsibility today.
I don't know. You know, Eric, I thought I
You're
missed
back.
you. You know, Eric, I thought I missed you for the last few weeks, but I guess I haven't, huh?
Thanks, Jay.
Now, can you tell me what committee that is?
Well, you have to go to Lowell.
Not the Middlesex Committee on Government Relations. How's that?
Can you see my face in anguish?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chair, it's Steve
Yes.
Savage. Would you like me to just fill him in on
Go
what
ahead,
that-
Stephen.
Yeah. So Jay, the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments meets usually once a month on a Wednesday night. And what they do is they look at regional planning for the 9 communities, Lowell and the surrounding communities. And then also we get a lot of our transportation funding through that organization. It's located over on Church Street.
Well, that's okay. I just didn't know what I was just looking to find out what the committee was. But if you're, Mr. Sedgwick, if you're asking me, I'm there.
Thank you.
Do you have to nominate me for that?
The board does.
Yes, yes, you do. We have a motion on that?
I nominated Jay Delaney for the position on NEMCOG representative from planning.
Do we have a second?
Second.
On the motion. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. You need a roll call, Don?
You should do a roll call. You should do a roll call.
Mr. Patalia,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
the chair votes aye.
I want to know if Mr. Ryder was smiling when he said aye.
I'm always smiling, Jay. I always smile.
We all set there?
I am.
Yeah, are we all set? Hello?
I think that's all of them.
Bob, that took care of that agenda item.
Okay, very good. I was trying to really to hear what we were saying. Next item on the agenda is 2122 Main Street, special permit extension request. I got Rosanna there now.
Yes, sorry, my battery died, so I was just getting a charger.
Oh, okay. That happens to the best of us. I have one question, if I may, before we start any dialogue on this. What are the numbers of times or years we can go for an extension? Because I think we've had a couple on this one already. I could be wrong.
I would have to look into that for you. Frankly,
Good evening,
and oh yeah, Steve, if you want to go ahead.
Do we have a number? I don't mean to interrupt, but do we have a number of how many times they can come back to extend their permit?
Had
Or
the
does
same
it go on forever? Excuse me, Eric.
No.
I just want, does this thing go on forever? Or is there a time span on it?
I'd have to get back to you on that.
Go ahead, Anna.
So this is Matt Hammer with Lamplex. I made the request. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you. This
I
is
can hear you.
Anna, did you say what?
Excuse me.
Excuse me, Matt. Matt, excuse me. Anna, did you say you wanted to get back to us on that?
Yes, that's what I said.
Okay. So what do we do with that this evening?
I mean, you
Rather
guys
it's late?
doing extensions, technically in the zoning, language, there's a question about if you can be doing extensions at all. So, in common practice in the town. It looks like Steve is going to pull up some information, so can we get back to you on that in a couple of minutes? And
That sounds great. Matt, you all set on that?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just was going to say, I mean, one, we've done these in the past. I don't see why, even if it turns out that there's an issue, it won't hurt to at least do it tonight. That way, nothing lapses. If it turns out later that there's an issue, then we could do about that anyways. But if we table it now, I'm not sure when this expires, and I wouldn't want there to be a lag because we don't come back again until August.
No, I thought Anna was going to come back in a couple minutes.
Right.
I know, actually, Steve Sadwick he's pulling some information, not me. So,
Okay, fine. That's fine then. We can wait. I'm sure Steve will have it very quickly. So Matt, do you mind waiting for a few minutes?
Not at all.
Okay, we have a motion to lay this on the table.
So moved.
There's a second. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both the ayes have it. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 1009 Livingston Street, concept plan review.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Dick Cuco here. I believe you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Here on behalf of the owners at 1009 Livingston Street. This is Jeanette Sullivan's family trust. And the property that is outlined here is 0.61 acres. And what we're proposing to do is to put in a OSRD subdivision where we would keep the existing home out here that's at 1009 Livingston Street. We would construct a new road that would have 3 new homes on it. We have an open space area down in here. Instead of putting another house in this location, we decided to split the open space into 2 segments. This area over here we hope would afford a lot of privacy for this existing home down here, and there will be a home eventually built in this location. And then it also gives us a lot of separation for the homes that are out here that butt off of the subdivision off of Lancaster. Mr. Sullivan had sent out letters to all of the abutters, even though it's not a criteria for a concept plan, but he sent out letters to all of the abutters. He heard back from a few of them, as long as it wasn't going to be zoned MFD, they didn't have any objections. So we had Jim Hanley working on the project. He flew this thing and did the superimposing this on here. So I did get a memo from Ms. McGinty relative to the amount of open space in the area. The assessors have it listed as 4.73 acres, but an accurate on the ground survey had it as 4.61 acres. So we have the appropriate amount of open space, but that'll all be worked out when we get into the definitive plan. But we thought we'd bring in the concept plan, have you folks take a look at it, and see if you had any comments that we can incorporate into the final design.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Was that all?
That's it.
All right. Board members, Mr. Patalia,
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman, right now.
Mr. Ryder,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cuco, are you intending on any sidewalks on this proposed drive?
Yeah, when they'll probably do the typical sidewalk on one side with the usual fee and going to the sidewalk fund. But unless the board didn't want to see sidewalks, which we would do the money for both sides, but we have no problem with putting a sidewalk on one side.
Okay. And then in the open space parcel B, what is the proposed land clearing that's going to be partake there? Is there significant clearing to get your grades, or are those existing, and what you're anticipated on any grading changes there?
Well, we think we're going to have some grading in this area here for a stormwater pond, and they're also going to have like a rain garden down in this area. But most of this area in here will stay natural vegetation. What we had looked at in the early stages of this, Eric, is having a large level spreader because, you know, we can't have a direct point source discharge. So we've got we're almost looking at having a level spreader that will go right along this contour here. So, and I'm thinking that this is probably way oversized, but I'd rather show it larger and then, you know, reduce it than the other way around.
No, okay. That was just my concern if, you know, what the anticipated, if there was going to be a swale or looks like you have a large enough parcel that you can keep that in case there's any, you know, no pooling or anything.
I had done a conventional subdivision and the whole lot was clear cut, so that didn't seem to fit in with what the owners of the property wanted to do. They just lived there for over 60 years, so.
Yep, no, I understand. No, absolutely. I just had a couple of questions on the abutters, Livingston Street. That was one of the big concerns about clear cutting and what natural vegetation was going to stay, potential of any stormwater on their parcels, because they're ultimately lower than what you're anticipating for that stormwater pond.
Yes, correct.
Okay. That's all I have for right now. Thank you, Mr. Kuko.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Mr. Delaney.
I think all my questions were answered through Eric. I don't have a problem with this at all.
All right.
I am familiar with the area.
Yep, very good. Thank you, Mr. Delaney. Mr. Johnson.
I'm all set as long as they figure out the acreage before they bring in the final version. That's fine with me.
Right. And I'm all set too. You don't have to have a vote on this. This is just a consensus. And Mr. Kuko, do you need anything else?
No, I'm fine with that, Mr. Chairman, and we appreciate
Okay,
it.
it looks like there's no dissenting discussion, so I think you're all set to go.
Very good. We appreciate your time.
Very good. Thank you. Take care. Next up on the agenda is 1325 Main Street, non-substantial change request.
Good afternoon, or good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Scott. I'm with the law firm Perkins and Ansel on behalf of the applicant here, Cerulo Development LLC. Board will probably recall we were before you back in the spring requesting a modification to the special permit for the property at 1325 Main Street. That's special permit 2017-28. Over the past few months, we've been doing our best with the COVID challenges to move the project along. And we've come up with one additional housekeeping item that we're hoping you can help us with tonight.
Go right ahead.
The permit condition that we discussed last time regarding the affordable housing requirement had a provision in it that tied the release of occupancy permits to DHCD approval. And after discussion with Mr. Sadwick, Ms. McGinty, and with the Affordable Housing Trust, we believe it would be more appropriate to tie that oversight, that administrative keeping function, to the planning board, to the building department, rather. So we're requesting that the board make a non-substantial determination and allow this minor change, which would provide that no occupancy permit will be issued until the town building department receives confirmation that all affordability restrictions for the local action units have been properly recorded. Now, this changes nothing about the project substantively. All 7 units above the commercial element of the project will remain affordable. The total number remains the same. It's just an oversight issue.
Very good. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Board members, Mr. Ryder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sadwick, understanding that this was under the DHCD, can you speak to, I guess, any of the board members, why that was in the initial request and in the initial approvals? Was there a specific reason for that?
You know, I think our intent was really, at that point when we had that condition, was to just make it tighter. In discussing it with Attorney Erickson, though, and walking through this, ultimately the town holds the ability to hold up the occupancy permit on anything that moves forward. So, you know, we looked at it and said we would have local control over this, and we wouldn't release it without having those units affordable, certified by DHCD. It just brought the control back to us locally.
Okay. No, I was just wondering where you normally don't see that. It's usually back on the building department. So I just didn't know if it was specific to any particular funding or any requirements that were in the original approval. Okay, I'm all set. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank you, Eric. Mr. Delaney. And thank you, Steve.
I don't have a problem with this. As long as the numbers are staying the same, I'm all set.
Correct. Okay, thank you. Mr. Johnson.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
All right, good. Mr. Patalia.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did review the paperwork, and I also reached out to Steve Sadwick about this issue, and I'm very confident that we're covered as far as letting the building department handle this. So I'm all set as well. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Patalia. And I am all set also with that. Thank you. Steve, I want to thank you for your report on that. Thank you. We should have a motion of this.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the non-substantial change for 1375 Main Street. 15.
Yes. Anna?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I just want to clarify, for all non-substantial changes, we need to have 2 votes. One is to confirm that the planning board, this is a non-substantial change, and the other one is to do the actual vote. So going forward, we need to do that.
That's good. Thank you, Anna. Do we have a motion on whether or not this is a non-substantial change? Mr. Patalia.
Yes, I'm making a motion that to endorse the fact that this is a non-substantial change.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Is that all right, Don? Unanimous vote?
That's fine.
Thank you. And Mr. Patalia, you want to go on with your motion?
I want to make to approve the non-substantial change at 1325 Main Street as proposed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So just for clarification, we're changing it to the language submitted here, the red line version, correct?
That is the request, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, if the applicant has that red line version, he should show it on the screen.
Don't have it right now. I can read the sentence.
Read it out. Yep.
Certainly. So the sentence would read as modified. No occupancy permit will be issued until the town building department receives confirmation that the affordability restrictions for local action units have been properly recorded.
Is that, Mr. Patalia, is that your motion?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Is that what your motion, Mr. Patalia?
Yes, I made a motion to approved the non-substantial change for 1325 Main Street as written.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
Who seconded that?
That was Jay.
Jay Delaney.
I heard 2 seconds, okay.
Jay Delaney.
Thank you. Yes. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous vote.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 527 Chandler Street. Approval not required plan.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Dick Cuco. For the applicant, I'm going to share my screen again, hopefully. Here we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Dick Cuco from Woodland Design, representing Gen 4 Builders. This property is located at the intersection of Helvetia and Chandler Streets. I guess it's been in a while ago for some rezoning potential, but that's not what we're here for this evening. The property has 11.5 acres of land with frontage on Chandler Street and Helvetia Street. We're subdividing it into 9 lots. Each lot meets all of the requirements for zoning as far as area and frontage. We have roughly a 1 acre lot to a 1.4 acre lot. All of the lots conform to zoning. We have frontage on an existing road. There's water and sewer available for the property. And I think it'll put a lot of people's mind at rest that it's not going to be any type of multifamily project.
Thank you, Mr. Cuco. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. There's some background noise. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, obviously, they don't require our approval because they meet the
Right.
requirement for an acre of zoning.
Right.
I make note, well, let me just say this. This has nothing to do with the petitioner, but this is exactly why we shouldn't have single acre zoning as the only option. Because having this broken up, we would have had basically one roadway in. Instead, we're about to put 9 driveways on Chandler/Helvetia. Because this is what they're forced to do, because there is no other option. That's it, I'm all set.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Delaney.
Yeah, I'm all in agreement. They're all conforming lots. I just don't particularly care for the idea of the driveways coming out onto Chandler Street. But depending on where the houses are placed, I guess they'll have enough room to get their cars in and out. I'm all set with this, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ryder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will echo Mr. Delaney as well as Mr. Johnson. You know, they do not need to come before us. Thank you for bringing it to us. But, you know, I am concerned with, Mr. Delaney stated, those, specifically the 3 lots 7, 8, and 9. Those are, that's a very difficult corner as it is. And bringing a driveway, specifically lot 8, is going to be a concern. And making sure when they do back at to the building department that they make sure that they have proper visual perspective down Helvetia and to the corner at Chandler, because that can be very tricky, specifically wintertime, with snowbanks and so forth. That corner is at that island can be tricky to navigate. And if you're putting in a driveway, I would highly recommend, we can't enforce, but lot 8, you put it to the northern point close to lot 9 as far as possible. Or if you could possibly adjust lot 9 and change the shape of lot 8 and 9 to get your driveway farther up Helvetia Street, that may be a help. Just a suggestion, Mr. Cupo.
Just to put your mind at ease of all the board members, even though it's not a new subdivision road, we still have to file for a physical alteration permit to cut our driveways in and our water sewer and so forth and so on. So those will be looked at with the DPW, because we have to file 9 physical alteration permits, unlike what we would have to do in a new subdivision. But it's an existing town street, so to cut into it, we have to file physical alteration permits with DPW.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you for that information, Mr. Cupo, and I agree with you. That's it, Mr. Ryder?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Patalia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also echo my board members' comments about not needing a approval from us, but thank you for bringing it in front of us. There's a lot of questions about this site over the last few months. If you remember, it was supposed to be some type of affordable component going in down there, but I guess that never came about. So I guess the 9 lots, is probably what's going to probably go in there. But again, they're all conforming lots. So I guess I would end by saying good luck, and hopefully you'll take into consideration what Mr. Ryder said about the access driveway there coming on lot 8, because it's a tough spot there. So, but I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patalia.
Remember, I lived in that area for 25 years, so I know it very well.
Yeah, that's very true, Mr. Cooper. Thank you. I'd like to not add anything to this conversation, but I wanted to have this conversation, not just a motion to approve Form A lots. I know that's all it would require, but this was under discussion for a long time by a few people and under different proposals. So I would just want this board to follow this through the DPW, want to follow this through the building inspector. And I know that all of these lots would be sufficient enough so they can no one should be able to have that back out of here. They can turn around, they'll have a turnaround on each lot. And that will take some of the burden away from having a problem out on the streets, Helvetia and Chandler Street. I think that's a good idea, Mr. Ryder, to maybe swing that lot line from lots 8 up to 9. I think they have adequate frontage here. It's hard reading on the plan on the screen, but I don't want to cover my screen with my plan. But that would be a good idea. They were very good ideas, and move those that lot for the road driveway for lot 8 up a little bit towards 9. But having said that, what's the pleasure of the board for motion? I guess we could motion all of these, or do we have to motion? Anna,
I make a motion to endorse the A&R plan.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I just say a word?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so going forward, every vote, everything we have, endorsements for the A&Rs, non-substantial changes, we all need a roll call from each member.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Very good, but can we motion one motion on all 9 of these lots? Or in some cases, Form A lots. Mr. Johnson?
It's one plan, right? We're just endorsing one A&R plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, when you do the endorsement, when you're ready to do it, just have
That's
each
right.
member do their vote. So we have them, because it's remote, so people are having a hard time seeing who it is, and we need to do that.
Understand. Fine, thank you, Anna. And we have a motion? Mr. Johnson?
I had a motion to endorse the A&R plan.
Second.
And any discussion? On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Aye. I am doing a roll call vote, but I am asking for a motion in a vote, a voice vote, and then I'll do the roll call. Thank you. Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Ryder,
Aye.
Mr. Patalia,
Aye.
Mr. Delaney,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Chairman, board members,
Yes. Who is this?
I was just saying thank you.
Oh,
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda. 434 Main Street, Wamasett Lanes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cuco here for the applicant. I believe Mr. McLaren is also on the line.
All right. You there, Mr. McLaren?
Yes, I am here.
Well, look at that. The younger McLaren.
I hope I'm
Welcome.
sharing, right. Let me see if I'm sharing the right document. Here we go. How about that? All right. Mr. Chairman, board members, we're here for a request for a non-substantial change for 434 Main Street, Wamasett Lanes. I'm going to pass this here. What I believe what we're here for the first part is that in the initial language for the permit back in 2014 or so, nobody picked up on it. Mr. Sadwick finally picked up on it. I thank him for that. And he said that the property is appropriately zoned for a retail center, and the public benefit up to the community for the proposed project will outweigh the burden imposed, et cetera, et cetera. What the permit should have said was appropriate for an indoor and outdoor commercial amusement center. So we've broken this up into two parts. So that would be the first part that we would ask the board to determination on for non-substantial change. And the second part is that it had been implied through the public hearing process that, you know, we would have outdoor activities, and specifically the only activity that made it into the permit was bocce courts. So what we're asking the board to do, and I believe there's a memo also from Mr. Sadwick in your packet that's further down, to have the language listed use special permit to have uses that are listed in the Town of Tewksbury entertainment license, both current and the future, granted by the Board of Selectmen, shall be incorporated into the use special permit. This is I hope you can see that. This is the entertainment license granted by the Board of Selectmen, so that any of the activities that take place outside relative to, there's a whole list of them here, dueling pianos, DJ, acoustic microphone, live band, ladies' night, luau, country dancing, et cetera, would be incorporated in as long as they met the requirements for the Town of Tewksbury Board of Selectmen license. As you all know, that the McLarens run a lot of charitable events, and cornhole is one of the bigger ones that raises an awful lot of money for a lot of good activities throughout the town. So that's the second part of the non-substantial change. And then there is a memo, July 8th, from Mr. Sadwick, which I think you have in your packet. If not, I can try to find it. But basically, he reiterates the first part where the language said retail center versus family entertainment. And then the second section, is echoing the reciting of the selectmen's special permit for outdoor entertainment. So any of the activities that are outside always would require that they fall under the auspices of the selectmen's special permit. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. If not, Donnie can try to answer them.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Delaney, Mr. McLaren, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Nope, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thanks.
Board members, Mr. Patalia.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have reviewed the application and acknowledged the error that was there. Hopefully, we can resolve that tonight and have them continue being the good businessmen they are in Tewksbury. So with that, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm all set with the language change because we knew all along what this was going to be. So if we use the wrong language, I have no problem fixing that. And I don't have any issue with tying their uses to those things that are approved by the Board of Selectmen in this case, you know, is a one-off. I just don't want to do it where we're saying that that's what we mean all the time, because we might have meetings where we have long discussions about things that we think shouldn't go on at a certain site. And then if they go to the Board of Selectmen and get it approved, it undoes exactly what we may have done. I'm fine with doing it in this one instance. Otherwise, I'm all set.
Okay, very good. Mr. Ida.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Delaney.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm all set as well. With these trying times, you try to do anything to help a guy that has a business and is well organized and everything as he has had it. He's been a tribute to the town. I see absolutely no reason to refuse anything for him at this particular time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney. And the chair supports everybody else's discussion on this. What's the pleasure of the board?
So I'd make a motion first that the change in language from retail center to recreational entertainment center is a non-substantial change.
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. We have a motion. We have a motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Aye. We have a roll call vote. We have a Mr. Delaney,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Ryder,
Aye.
Vinnie Fratellia,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. And Mr. Johnson, you have a second motion?
So then the motion would be to make the change in language from retail, let me see where I lost the language again, sorry. From retail to outdoor, right? Is that indoor outdoor? Well, yeah, my motion is to change it from the incorrect language to the correct language. I can't find it in my papers, but.
Well, Mr. Cuco's
Here it is.
putting it back on the screen.
Retail center is what it was, to change it to recreational entertainment.
We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, should we include it the way it's written as far as indoor and outdoor commercial amusement center? That was what they were trying to be proposed
I
language.
thought that was the motion. Isn't that the motion, Mr. Johnson?
I had just said recreational entertainment center, but if you want to add indoor outdoor to the language, that's fine.
Okay.
I think that we're clear enough. Yes. Mr. Kelly, would you like that to be it?
I'm good with that. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, on the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, on the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Roll call vote. Mr. Patalia.
Aye.
Mr. Delaney.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Ryder.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. you. Thank you, Mr. Where'd he go? Byron. Thank you, Mr. Byron.
Hey, thank you, everybody. Thanks for your time. Thanks for the kind words. Appreciate it very, very much.
Mr. Chairman,
We have a second
Yes.
part here, right?
That's the second part.
there's a second part of that,
Okay,
the new special permit portion.
I'm
So-
sorry.
So I make a motion that the new special, use special permit language is also a non-substantial change.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, yes. That's have it. Mr. Battaglia,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Delaney,
Aye.
Mr. Ryder.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We have a second motion for this also?
So I'll make a motion that the board finds that in addition to the uses listed in the use special permit and uses listed in the town of Tewksbury entertainment licenses, both current and future uses granted by the Board of Selectmen shall be incorporated into the use special permit.
Very good. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ryder. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Ryder? Oh, I'm sorry. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Ryder?
Aye.
Mr. Delaney?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
And who am I forgetting?
Mr. Fattalia, aye.
Mr. Fattalia? Thank you, and the chair votes aye. It was nice when I had everybody's picture across the board here. I could just go right down the list. And now I have Mr. Cuco.
Thank you very
That's
much,
all right.
board members. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks again, everybody.
1 second. All right. Do you have a caller? Do we have a caller on the line?
We have no caller, Mr. Chairman.
It said caller unused. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is 935 Andover Street, Walgreens. Non-substantial change request.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is Andrew Stack from the Tewksbury DPW Engineering Division, and I'm
Right.
joined by Kevin Hardeman, Town Engineer.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We lost a couple of members there for a minute. I'm sorry?
Congratulations on your new appointment.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yes.
So we're here in front of the board tonight for some modifications to Walgreens located up at the intersection of River Road and Andover Street. This is related to a Mass DOT tip project that is going to be constructed starting in the next several months. And in order to improve safety up at that intersection, we're looking to realign the Walgreens driveway with River Road so that we can signalize both legs of that intersection. And additionally, the sign for the Walgreens will need to be moved in order to accommodate these changes. So as you can see on the screen, there's the proposed changes to the intersection and how the Walgreens driveway will now align with River Road.
Everybody see that? I'm all set.
So we're happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Well, thank you. Mr. Ryder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kevin, I believe now, is that there any impact with the relocation of that roadway with, I believe, isn't there a control box for your water and the interconnect with Lowell there? Is that going to be relocated under this, or is that you going around that?
You are correct. There is a control box out there for the telemetry for the interconnection with Lowell. The decision's been made to remove that interconnection. That was a remote switch for the valves. We feel that it's just not wise to have someone up at the treatment plant be able to flip a switch and connect Tewksbury's water to Lowell's water. It was something that was done, by the previous operators up at the plant. It's something they thought was going to be a good idea, but in actuality, we like to have boots on the ground. Someone from Lowell, someone from Tewksbury present when those valves are operated. So the actual telemetry box is going to be removed.
Okay. Other than that, now as part of that as well, in your that relocation of that existing telephone pole, is that going north? Or I know that's a difficult pole with multiple connections. Is that staying? Are you pushing everything to more towards Tewksbury or more to the opposite side of the parking lot?
I'm not sure which pole you're referring to. I don't know,
That's the
Andrew, if you...
right next to the sign. That's the one next to the
Are you
sign.
talking about this one right here? There's an existing utility pole here. All these poles that are on the street are being relocated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Nope. Other than that, I believe I'm all set.
Thank you, Mr. Rucker.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can someone just clarify the parking space? Because it seems like in the paperwork, there's potentially multiple different numbers for how many parking spaces are being lost and how many will still be there after after the moving of the sign and everything.
That's right.
Yeah, I can go over that. So there's 38 parking spaces. There's 35 standard spaces and 3 accessible spaces. As a result of the reconfiguration, let me bring that back up. As a result of the reconfiguration, you're losing a spot right here, and there's 3 spots over here that are being lost. So that brings your total parking spaces to 31 standard spaces and 3 accessible spaces. So it's 34 parking spaces total. And based on the zoning bylaws, which is 1 space per 200 square feet of building space, 33 spaces are required for this property, and we'll have 34 here.
Okay.
That sounds good.
And then the second one was the town planner's second comment, looking for clarification on the distance of the pre-existing free sign from the property line.
So the existing sign is actually located within the town's right-of-way. It appears to be set approximately 2 feet beyond the street line.
Okay. And the new, when it's relocated, it'll be how far?
New sign. So this is the existing sign here, and the relocated sign is proposed right over here.
I think it's approximately 7 feet back from the right of way. So it's going to move about 10 feet away from the roadway to accommodate the project.
All right. So, so we're still going to have it inside the 15 feet. So do we have to make a separate determination on that that's okay, or?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes. Go ahead.
So, I heard that the sign will be exactly at 15 feet, or will it be more than 15 feet from the street lot line?
Mr. Stack?
The sign, we can relocate it to 15 feet from the lot line.
Okay, so it should technically be like, it shouldn't be within 15 feet, it should be 16, for example. So, according to section 52, 53 of the zoning bylaw. As long as it complies with that, then that's the requirement.
All right, so we'll put it 16 feet back.
Great.
Okay.
Good.
That was easy.
Otherwise, I'm all set.
Good. Thank you, everybody. Mr. Patel?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one question. So the exact same sign is going back there, correct?
That's my understanding. If they want to put up a new sign, they would have to come in for a separate filing.
Okay, that was my question.
Right.
The new sign's going back, same dimensions as proposed, and I have no issues at all. So with that, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Mr. Delaney?
I don't have a problem with the parking or the moving of the sign. The thing I was concerned about, the box, the valve box that they were operating with the telemetry system, was that valve made that way so that if there was a loss of water on the Tewksbury side or the Lowell side, if there was a loss of water, they could valve the water in they could take Tewksbury water to Lowell water? Am I explaining that properly?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes, you are.
It's an interconnection between the municipalities to allow for, basically it's mutual aid when needed for the water system.
Okay. All right. I think I'm all set with that now, sir.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Delaney. And the chair is in approval of everything that's been discussed. Anything else from the board? Hearing none. Anything else, Anna?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. What's the pleasure of the board? We have 2 votes. Should have non-substantial change request. Mr. Johnson?
I'll make a motion that this is a non-substantial change.
I'll second.
Thank you. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the ayes have it. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ryder?
Aye.
Mr. Delaney?
Aye.
Mr. Battaglia?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion on the discussion. On the motion. We have a motion on the discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the non-substantial change at 935 Andover Street as requested.
Second.
Second. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Battaglia?
Aye.
Mr. Delaney?
Aye.
Mr. Ryder?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson, and the chair votes aye. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have one question. In
What
that
is that?
motion, should the moving of the sign be included to 15 or 16 feet, whatever they've talked about? Should that also be part of the motion?
Yes, it should be. It should be, because it's not part of the original plan. Who made the motion on the final approval?
I did, Mr. Chairman. So I'd like to add that as a condition to the non-substantial change that it be 16 feet rather than the 50 feet.
I will second that, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the ayes have it. Mr. Battaglia?
Aye.
Mr. Ryder,
Aye.
Mr. Delaney,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Hardeman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Stack.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda. 180 Pond Street, approval not required plan. Who's representing?
That's me, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me? This is Jim Hanley with Civil Design Consultants.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes, all set.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Great. So I am going to attempt to share my screen here. Let's see. Now it'll be something. Okay, so I'm not sharing my screen. I've been having difficulty with the video on my screen for some reason.
No, we all have a copy of that if that's all right with you.
Yeah, okay. So I guess I'm just going to walk through this, and then I'll try to fix it for later on in the meeting here. So we're at 180 Pond Street, and we're here in front of you tonight for an approval not required review. Tax map 40 lot 64, and just to get you acquainted with where we are, 180 Pond Street essentially sits at the intersection of Pine Street and Pond Street. And Long Pond is off to the west of the site beyond the land owned by the town of Tewksbury. Correct, right there. You can see kind of where the limit of that BBW is.
You have the plan right now.
Awesome, thank you. And what we are proposing to do, let's see. Okay, currently what's there right now is a Disabled American Veterans private club. It's a bar and a function hall. It has plus or minus 40 to 50 parking spaces. The building itself is about 2,500 square feet, wood framed and 2-story in size. The parcel itself is approximately 5 acres in area. It is zoned R40, and we have substantial frontage along both Pond and Pine Street. We have 645 feet of frontage plus or minus on Pond, and 435 feet of frontage along Pine. Water and sewer are both provided off of Pine Street. And what we're proposing to do is basically just have frontage lots here. We have 5 lots in total, 2 off of Pine Street, 3 off of Pond Street, all of which are 1 acre in area minimum, and all of which provide 150 feet of frontage and comply with your perimeter ratio guidelines. Because the site currently has the DAV club there, there's plus or minus 35,000 square feet, almost a full acre of impervious surface that's out there right now between the parking lot and the building itself. What we're proposing to do, just so you know, we'll be coming before you in August for the land disturbance permit application, because we're going to have more than 20,000 square feet of land disturbance. And we'll also be going to conservation for a request for determination of applicability. So all in all, it's 5 lots. They all meet the zoning requirements, area, frontage, and perimeter ratio. This is the first of 2 steps that will be coming. We're here tonight, and then we'll be in front of your board next month for the land disturbance permit application. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them for you.
Well, thank you for everything you've said so far, James. We appreciate that. I'm going to try to take this a little more simply than we did on the first vote we had on the Form A lots. I thought there was a big difference between the 2 parcels. But this one I would like to do it as simply as possible if it's all right with the board. Anybody have any discussion on the Form A application of this? Hearing none.
Mr. Chair, I just had one, Mr. Chairman?
Go right ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just had one on the, I believe there's a town cell tower that abuts north, what that'd be lot 5?
Yeah.
What would be a setback there?
From the actual cell tower itself?
Yeah, from you, I mean, you within the fall area as well as with the lot line?
Yeah, I don't know that. But when we do come back next month, I can have that answer for you. I don't know what the answer to that question is.
Okay, that would just be the concern when you come back with, obviously, as stated earlier, you'll have to come back for permit for the building parcel. Just concerned if it's in the front area, the location of the parcel, whatever's going on the property.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question as well, if I could.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Hanley, where do you propose the driveway for Lot 2? Being on the corner of Pine and Pond, it's a tough little spot there, so I didn't know what your plan was on as far as driveway goes.
Lot. So I don't have that. We don't have that developed yet, but we do have somewhere about 165 plus another 120. We have a substantial amount of frontage on Lot 2 on Pine Street.
Yeah.
So we will pull that driveway up closer toward Lot 1 and away from the intersection.
That's what I was figuring, but thank you very much. Yep. All set,
Mr. Hanley. And thank you, Mr. Cooper, for the plans.
Yes, thank you.
On both sets of plans. We have a motion
Can I
on.
ask, excuse me,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes,
ask,
go ahead.
can I ask a question just for,
Sure.
when Mr. Ryder brought up the cell tower, is there a dimension he's looking for? I don't understand what the cell tower has to do with this development.
There's required, you can't have, if I may, Mr. Chairman, under federal, you can't have a parcel within the fall area of any cell tower, monopole.
Right.
With various lists. So I was just concerned at the location of that.
If I may, Mr. Delaney, in some cases, when cell towers started, the cell towers were being put in after the houses were already there, so that it was easy to understand. This is one where the cell tower is already there, and the houses are going to go in now. So there's a little bit of difference of what we've had, but it means the same thing. And I appreciate that, Mr. Ryder.
Okay, but the thing is there a distance that we're looking for? In other words, this development they're all conforming lots, everything's where it's supposed to be. Is there a problem with the cell tower? How close can it be or can't be? Is what I'm asking, because I don't know.
It will determine the height of the tower. So, I mean, they basically look at the tower. If it's a 150-foot tower, you have a fall area of 150 feet directional from base of the cell tower, or whatever the height of that tower is. I was just looking if he had a concept of where the house is going to go on the parcel.
Okay, no, I'm asking a question because I didn't know the answer to it.
Yeah, whatever the height is, Jay, I don't know the height there is, so
right.
I'll know on the setback.
Yeah. So we'll provide all that information to you next month, but we'll also be that lot in particular. We're gonna be up as close to the roadway as we can. So I believe there's a 25-foot frontage requirement there, so we'll be like 30 feet off. So we're gonna be as far away as we possibly can.
Yeah, you look. I mean, based on Google Earth, Mr. Hanley, if that's your plan, that you should be sufficient. I just raised it as a concern.
Sure.
Good. Now, Mr. Delaney.
Yes, I'm all set. Thank you.
Good. Good question.
Thank you for your help.
Good answer from Mr. Hanley. Thank you. Now, do we have a motion on the Form A lots?
Motion to approve I'm sorry, motion to endorse the A&R plan.
Thank you. Give a second.
Second.
On the motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Ryder,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Fattalia,
Aye.
Mr. Delaney,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley, and Mr. Cooper.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda. 495 Woburn Street, special permit condition. Discussion. Who's representing 495?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Who is I?
It's Steve Sadwick.
Oh, hi, Steve. Sorry.
That's okay. There is a memo that was included in your package. And
Yes.
the reason why I'm here this evening on this issue is that we were contacted by the city of Lowell regarding condition 19 and the special permit that the planning board issued. So I myself, Anna, have been talking with the Lowell staff. I've also had conversations with Bob Buckley from Reamer and Bronstein, who was their attorney, and we're trying to work through how condition 19 would actually operate. And basically it was worded so that everything was focused on the Woburn Street I-495 interchange. And it basically said if two outside organizations, Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, which Mr. Delaney's now a part of, and Middlesex 3 Coalition, chose to undertake improvements at that intersection. It never really answered the question, what if there was a determination by Mass DOT not to go forward with a concept study there, or if Mass DOT said, take this through our normal permitting process. So in our conversations with Lowell and again with Bronstein, Attorney Buckley came up with language that would kind of allow for condition 19 to be met if we got an early response from Mass DOT saying, do not proceed in this fashion. The money would still be available to Tewksbury to do additional physical changes on Woburn Street. And that would be in conjunction with the city of Lowell. So again, you know, we're at the point where this decision will be released from the appeal period within, I think it's next week. And so, not that there was ever a threat that was made, but just so that the board's aware that we're sitting in a place where the municipality does have the ability to do that, just like we were in a position with Andover, Bascom Road project. And I think that the language that Attorney Buckley proposed is pretty favorable to Tewksbury and just adds more flexibility to what we can do with that $100,000 that was in condition 19. So really what I was looking for this evening is that if the board understood and agreed with the concept, then we would proceed with that. And if you had any questions, then I would take it back to Lowell and to Attorney Buckley.
Thank you, Mr. Sadler. You folks, if I may, Mr. Sadler, I'd like to reach out here. Do you foresee any problems with this as we go forward?
No, and in fact, I think, in my mind, I think it gives us a little bit more flexibility and addresses, like I said in my memo, I think it kind of clarifies a what-if scenario where, again, condition 19 couldn't be met. How would we spend that money on other traffic improvements?
Thank you, Mr. Sadler. Mr. Ryder, do you have any questions on this?
No, I think Mr. Sadler explained that very well. Thank you.
I agree. Mr. Delaney.
I kind of agree with everything. The only thing I wanted to know is, with the things that they're adding, is it a group effort with all of the money from the 3 towns to maintain this thing, or who's going to be designated to maintain it?
So Jay, the way that I would see that operating is that whatever those mitigation efforts would be, it would be something that would be agreed upon by both Tewksbury and Lowell, and then whoever owns that right of way, it would be our responsibility. So if it's sidewalks that are being installed in Tewksbury, we maintain the sidewalks. If it's a flashing signalized pedestrian crosswalk in Lowell, that would be Lowell's responsibility.
All right, like that kind of wasn't explained. It just said flashing lights or this, or a number of things. I just wanted to make sure that I clarified in my own head who was going to maintain it. And that answers my question. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Delaney. Mr. Talia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see the number of scenario conditions, Steve. I would like to include the sidewalks on Woolley Street for the residents there to be considered. You know, across the street from the project. You know, they're going to be the ones that are going to be inconvenienced with the traffic and the trucks and so forth. So if we can consider that area as far as sidewalks, that'd be great.
Okay, we will.
You know, I mean, I kind of brought that up at one of the other meetings, but it kind of fell on deaf ears, luckily. But I think that should be a consideration for the town of Tewksbury to have that looked at as far as getting the residents there sidewalks that they can walk on down to the playground or wherever they have to go. So, but, all right. So thank you.
Yeah.
And Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. Steve, in the event that there's a disagreement of what should be done between us and the city of Lowell, like you just used for an example, if we want sidewalks and they want signs, we've now looped them into being a decision maker. Is that not?
Problems connecting to the network.
Hello?
That's somebody.
Brian or Jason?
Am I still here?
Yeah, Steve, you're still on.
Okay.
Bob, we don't have a visual on. Vinny, Eric, and Jay, we have visuals. So I think we're
Brian
Bob.
or Jason?
Hey, Bob, I can. Bob, how's it going? But we lost your video for some reason.
Well,
there we go. It appears that you're having bandwidth issues, which just sometimes, if you have low bandwidth, will shut down the video portion just to save bandwidth. But we can hear you and see you now.
Okay.
So, Steve, to answer.
So you think we're back on now?
Yes.
Yep.
I do. To answer your question, Steve, which is a fair question, while I'm asking for the board to agree with the concept here, I'm not looking to change condition 19. So really, it still holds that it's your condition. And at the end of the day, any type of use of that money is going to be tied back to where the planning board is. So I think the town of Tewksbury will still maintain its leverage on any of those mitigation measures.
All right, because that was definitely something we did talk about at the time, that we wanted to make sure that anything that was actually going to be a decision was going to be between Phil Ricker and Tewksbury, because it's where the project really was. I understand that there are some effects to Lowell, which is I didn't want to get them involved in making a decision, and then they potentially hold something up when really they're not actually where the project's going on. So if that's the case, then I'm fine with it, as long as we're not looping them into being, we have to get their sign off to do something.
Yep.
All right, and then since you're not actually asking for a change, my other question is moot, so.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. And I'm all set too, with that question was asked and answered. Mr. Stewart, do we need a response in the form of a motion?
Yeah, I guess what I was looking for is just if the board could take a vote that you agree in concept with the proposed language that was provided by Attorney Buckley.
Very good. Well, you'll have to excuse me. We got some background noise. A lot of scratchy noise going on here. So if everybody can hear, that we have a motion on that for Mr. Sadler.
So I'll make a motion that the board is in agreement with the language provided in Mr. Sadwick's memo that was produced by Attorney Buckley for the 495 Woburn Street.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Do we have a second?
Second.
And on the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion had, the ayes have it. We have a lot of, we have it. Let's take this as a voice vote. Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Ryder.
Aye.
Mr. Patalia.
Aye.
Mr. Delaney.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Unanimous vote. Thank you, Mr. Sadler.
Yep, thank you.
Next item on the agenda. Yes.
So back to the extension, you had a question for 21-22.
Okay. Go right ahead.
To follow back up on that.
Sure.
So for chapter 40A, section 9, it states that the special permit should not lapse more than 3 years.
Right.
So if you guys, this would be a policy shift for the planning board if you decide to stop doing extensions. And ultimately, it is on the applicant if they are getting an extension and that's not the right course.
Okay. There were some caveats on that before, Anna, if I may. If there was a time when it was slow economic growth for everybody, it was that was extension was given. I would think that this would fall into that. Whereas, in fact, ever since March, it's been a very slow economic growth, and the COVID has caused this. So I would think that this board could look at this as a motion, when we motion this, that we would extend this for a period of time as to the motion, whoever gives the motion, and then they should move from there. I'm not sure if everybody agrees with that, but that's been the procedure in the past. Any discussion? Mr. Ryder?
I'm okay with that. You know, I'd be okay with extending it a year, but I mean, beyond that, I feel, you know, the original back to 2016, you know, a year gives it that'll be 5 years. I think that should be sufficient to give the applicant the ability to go forward with the proposed project or not.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree. I mean, because I think if we get beyond much more than this, not only has economic things changed, but the way we look at these things has changed over time. And to have it go out this far without it coming into fruition, I think it would be reasonable for us to revisit this if it goes any longer. I mean, I'm okay with using the COVID exemption for this because I think that makes sense. Obviously, I think just we got to remember that this is already expired. So we need to make sure when we do a motion for this that we mention the fact that we got to go back to July 11th, I believe, to do the extension.
Chairman,
Very
yes,
good.
that's correct. July 11th, 2020 expired.
Okay. Mr. Delaney?
At this particular time, I don't have a problem extending their permit because of the COVID situation. But we also have to look at the things that were voted on Main Street in that particular area. How all the things we've affected with the traffic, the flow of the cars, what is it going to be? I mean, there's a lot of things that come into play. In 5 years, Route 38 has changed a tremendous amount in that area. Okay, a tremendous amount. So the thing is, I would think that after a year, another year, I think they're going to have to come up with either what they're going to build or they're going to have to come up with something else. Another way of handling it.
Very good. I agree, Mr. Delaney. Thank you. Mr. Pereira?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to hear from the applicant on this before I try to make a decision, because at this point now, I am not in favor of an extension unless I think there will be somewhere differently that will ever come to fruition. I question whether a jewelry store is another viable company. I think we have one in there now that's struggling as well. But that's my initial opinion right now. Unless the applicant can sway me a little differently, I'd like to hear from him as well.
Well, thank you, Mr. Battaglia. At this time, is the applicant available?
I am here.
And could you
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Could you please give us your name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Eli Saman. I am from Nasser Jewelers, from Saman Properties at 2122 Main Street. So truth of the matter is kind of cliche as it sounds, it really does come down to COVID, because at the beginning of the year, we had plans to deal with Primary Bank of New Hampshire, and then March came along and we were shut down for 7 weeks. So not only were we unable to conduct business in general, there was no way for us to really establish any form of really kind of moving forward until we knew what was going on. So then here we are now in July, when we're finally able to get on this, but we have started the process with Primary Bank as of the middle of June, I would say. So it's going to be almost a month. So we're getting there.
Okay. Do you understand what this means based on the conversation and the dialogue that the members have given to us?
I do, absolutely, and I really do appreciate it. You guys have been really great about it, but we're getting to the point now, like I said, luckily where we can move forward. So it's just a process of time at this point, and unfortunately, it just everything kind of hit at the same time. So that's what delayed us the extra, really.
Okay, I appreciate that, Mr. Picard. Did you get that all right?
I heard that, Mr. Chairman. So can I ask him a question, if you don't mind?
Go right ahead.
So, Mr. Saman, my question to you is, you have a lease agreement with Donna's Donuts to let them park there, or is that?
We do.
So you have an agreement with them to allow them to park cars there?
Yes.
How long is that for?
That's realistically in the lease. It's stated that until we decide that it no longer, there is no specific time. It's really at the discretion of us. So, I mean, once we're approved and ready and starting the process, there will be no more parking there.
Okay. So that's something that you did without the town's consent or anything like that, correct?
I mean, realistically, I didn't know if there was need for any consent. The reason we came across it was for the fact that people were parking there anyways. So when I came to Donna's Donuts, to Billy over there, and I said, what the heck is going on? They were actually moving the cinder blocks and the stones that we had blocking. People would literally drive in, move the rocks, and just do what they wanted. So he said, you know what, if it's okay with you guys, because of insurance and because of, issues like that, if we were in a lease agreement for the time being to use that portion as a parking lot for them, it was realistically the most appropriate way to approach it. So that way there was no issue with something happening to somebody's car on my piece of land because they just decided to trespass and go get some coffee and donuts. That's the main reason of why we decided to take that route.
Okay. That'd be a great extension for Donna's Donuts, but I mean,
yeah.
Right.
Give him a call.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
very
that
much.
insight. All right. We had discussion through everybody except Mr. Johnson, I believe. Did you?
I have no. I mean, all I said was I'm all set with using the COVID for this.
Yes.
Off time, but
Yeah.
you know, I think what you get from Mr. Fratalia, and I'm kind of on board with the same thing, that I am not inclined, if this doesn't get settled between now and July 11th, 2021,
Right.
do any more extensions.
No, I concur with that. Very good. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to extend the special, to grant the special permit extension from July 11th, 2020 to July 11th, 2021.
Do we have a second?
Second.
On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Delaney,
Aye.
Mr. Fratalia,
Aye.
Mr. Ryder,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. You're all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep. Good. Make it move.
We fingers crossed.
All right.
Take care. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Next item on the agenda, 325 Marshall Street, I believe. Right. 325 Marshall Street. Definitive subdivision and open space, residential development special permit. Continued from June 8th, 2020.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. With Civil Design Consultants, how are you? I'm here with Mark Ginsberg. I'm here with Mark Ginsberg, Arnie Martell, Dick Kuko, and we also have our traffic consultant here as well in case we have any traffic questions come up. And her name is Christine Braun with Ron Mueller and Associates.
Are you all in the same room or are you on different?
No, I think we're all mishmashed around the area here. No one's in the same room.
All right. Go right ahead.
So,
you have the floor.
So would it be any benefit to kind of give you a brief overview of the project as a whole? We haven't been in front of you for a bit here, and just want to make sure that everybody's working off the same sheet of music.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So let's see, applications. I'm going to share my screen. Application, share. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen here. I'll just kind of give you the once over fairly quickly here, just to kind of refresh everybody's memory. But we're at 325 Marshall Street. We're north of Whipple Road and south of Main Street. The whole site is about 55 acres in area. And there's one single family residence that's located, an existing single family residence that's located on the parcel right now. About a third of the parcel is wetlands. It ends up being about 21.5 acres plus or minus. It's all zoned R40. It's predominantly cleared, and the property right now is used for residential / farming / storage of equipment. The proposal in the picture that you're looking at there is an open space residential subdivision, which is why we're here in front of you tonight. The permits that we need to get are the special permits specific to the OSRD, subdivision approval, and a notice of intent from Conservation Commission. We have 38 lots in total. All of the lots will be somewhere around 12,500 square feet plus or minus, and they're all going to have 100 feet of frontage along the new road. Each residence, we're assuming, at least for purposes of sizing the lots and the buildings and eventually the SOAR, will be 4-bedroom plus or minus 2,800 square foot buildings. The roadway itself is about 3,136 feet in length, and that comes off of Marshall Street. Under the power lines, runs basically the same location as the existing driveway, provides access to the existing single-family lot, and then the 38 additional lots will be off of the loop in the back. 24 feet of pavement, 5-foot sidewalks on one side of the proposed roadway, a 40-foot right-of-way, and designed to meet and will be built to meet the town's standards. So that's kind of the general overview since the last time we've been in front of you. And basically we had two things we needed to address the last time we were in front of you. And that was specifically technical review through DPW. And then we had some planning comments from the planner that we needed to address. And I think we've made some progress on both of these here. So we had a very good conference call. The town made basically everybody available, from conservation to DPW to planning, to take one last look at some of the technical comments that were remaining from DPW. We even had the conservation consultant. So we had a really fruitful hour-long discussion, kind of one of these remote meetings where we talked about some of the last technical items that we needed to address. And just to kind of give you a sense for what those were, we originally designed all of the stormwater systems to address the towns and DEP stormwater management standards. The towns in this spot, however, where they have to show the EPA, which is a federal agency, that all new projects meet these federal guidelines. So it's a little bit of a learning curve on our end, and we had to kind of figure out exactly what those additional standards were. Even though that they didn't technically apply to us, we wanted to try to address those. And I think we've been able to achieve that. So we've made some minor modifications to 3 out of the 5 ponds. We provided this information to DPW. They eventually provided their review letter to us last Friday, give or take. And I'll revisit that in just a minute. So that was one thing. Then we had some comments relative to the crossing that we've worked through both now with DOT and the Conservation Commission's consultant. So I think at this point where we stand right now, we have a good handle on the technical issues. We did receive the letter from DPW on Friday. We don't take any exception with it. There was 1 or 2 site-specific comments relative to when we'd be able to actually apply for the land disturbance permit or the physical alteration permit. And we're in agreement. We're working towards getting the appropriate approvals from the state in order to apply for that. So based on what we saw out of that letter on Friday, we don't really take any exception with it. We'll work through the remaining items with the town as the other approvals come up. As far as planning goes, when we last spoke, there were the one planning issue that we needed to address was with regard to affordable housing discussion, and we submitted a letter. June 29, 2020. Mr. Ginsburg prepared that letter, provided it to Ms. McGinty, and I'm sure it's been provided in your packs, but essentially that outlines our rationale in our requests on how to handle the affordable housing discussion. And then since then, we've really kind of developed, provide, and coordinate with the planner on the homeowners association, which is kind of like the last bit of housekeeping that we typically do. So I think we've addressed your technical comments. I believe we've addressed your planning comments. That's kind of where we stand today. We're going in front of conservation on Wednesday night, where we hope to close the meeting and get an order of conditions approved. That's our plan. And other 2 things here to keep in mind as we discuss some of this stuff here is Again, we do have our traffic consultant with any traffic-related items. And we also had 4 waivers as part of this application that were included in the original information submitted. And we have those as well. So if you have any questions, more than happy to try to answer these for you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Anna.
I just wanted to let the board know that our peer review traffic consultant is on the line as well, Justin Hurwitz.
All right. Would the board want to discuss this with Mr. Hanley said, or do you want to continue with the discussion from the rest of the team?
Mr. Chair, I would like to hear what our a couple points of what our traffic consultant has to say about the report. And
Very good.
And here's my opinion, but I'll follow your lead, sir.
No, that's fine, Mr. Wright. Anyone else?
I'm fine either
Hearing
way.
none? Okay, very good. Mr. Hanley, why don't you bring forth your traffic consultant?
Okay, great. Kirsten, rather, are you there, capable of kind of giving us a once over on the traffic?
Yeah. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Kirsten Braun. I'm a traffic engineer with Ron Mueller Associates. So we prepared a traffic assessment for 325 Marshall Street, which was essentially broken down into 3 parts. The first part, we documented existing conditions on Marshall Street, which included volumes and speeds. The second piece, we projected the volume of traffic to be generated by the development. And then we evaluated the safety of the site driveway. For the existing conditions, we were able to conduct traffic counts on Marshall Street back in October of 2019. We found that on Marshall Street, there was about 2,200 vehicles per day traveling through there. The average and 85th percentile speeds were 31 and 35 miles per hour in both directions, which is slightly higher than the posted speed limit there of 30 miles per hour. We then projected the traffic volume to be associated with the 38 single-family residential homes. We use nationally accepted averages for this type of development to generate the trips here. And we found that actually we'd be generating between 32 and 40 trips during the peak hours, otherwise known as the rush hours. With this trip generation, we expect about 11 to 27 additional vehicles on Marshall Street. This results in about 1 additional car every 2 to 7 minutes there. Smaller increases in traffic can be expected during all other hours of the day. Regarding driveway safety is dependent on providing adequate sight distances so that drivers on Marshall Street and drivers at the site driveway can see each other and react accordingly. There were some existing obstructions on the north side, looking north up Marshall Street. So it was recommended that any existing vegetation on the property and within the Marshall Street right of way, which is under control of the applicant, be removed within the site triangle. We also recommend that any plantings, fences, or signs be kept outside of these site triangles. With these measures, the required site distances can be met, and therefore we expect that the driveway will be able to operate safely. So in summary, we performed a traffic study where we documented the existing conditions on Marshall Street. We projected traffic volumes associated with the new development, and we found that there would be minimal impact on Marshall Street. The traffic to be generated by the project is minimal and well within the daily fluctuation of traffic. It also should be noted that the town did hire their own peer review traffic consultant to review our study, and they also concurred with our findings. If you have anything else more specific that you have any questions on, I'm available to answer those.
Board members, any board members have any questions relative to this one?
Mr. Fowler, this is
Yes,
Mr. Johnson. I would just ask before we go, just have our traffic consultant, if they do in fact concur with what was said.
Yeah, this is Justin Kurwitz here with Beta Group. We've taken a look at the overall study and then provided comments that we had to the town, and we have received the comments back. We do not have any further comments. Their responses were acceptable. So as far as we're concerned, they are meeting what they have provided a complete traffic study.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. Thank you from both of you. Thank you. Mr. Hanley, anyone else from your team?
I know Dick and Mark are there. I'm not sure if Arnie is, but if you guys have anything to add, I guess now's the time.
Yeah, can you hear me now, Mr. Chairman?
Go right ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base. We worked very closely with Mr. Ginty on setting up the homeowners association, and that I don't know if you had a chance to review the homeowners association, but it's probably the most complete, comprehensive HOA coming forth so far, which probably is going to be the template for subdivisions in the future. So that's all I just wanted to add.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Ms. McGinty, do you have anything you want to add to that note?
Yes, I do. So I've been working with and speaking with the town council. So there's been a revised revision of the draft sessions document. One question in terms of the HOA that kind of needs to be clarified is, what is the open space going to be used for? Typically, it's left in a natural state and used for passive recreation. However, we need clarity on that. And some other items, when we get further on that, I'll mention. Draft conditions, if a vote happens tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. McGinty. Anyone who will respond to that? Mr. Kuko, Mr. Hanley?
I think, as far as I know, the open space is going to be left for passive recreation. That is spelled out in the homeowners association agreement who's responsible for policing and for in case some trees fall down that happen to be causing a dangerous situation. That's also the responsibility of the HOA. So, but basically, it's passive recreation.
Good. Anyone else? Okay. Mr. Hanley, what is anybody else on your team coming in?
I don't think so. I mean, we could walk through what the waivers are. We could talk about, the presentation you've heard so far. You tell us what you'd like to do.
Why don't we go over what the proposals were first? All right.
Waivers?
No. We'll do that second. We'll do that afterwards. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Picalio, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Chairman.
Go right ahead.
Just one question regarding number of cars per day, Justin. What is that number you have on Marshall Street?
Pardon?
What I'm looking. This is a question for Justin. What is the per day number on Marshall Street that gets traveled by vehicles daily?
We have that based on the report that was shown. That was just over 2,000 cars per day.
That seems like a high number to me. Where was that taken? Those were actual figures taken from how? From people observing cars, or was it on the road analysis there, or what is that done?
That's done. Based on their report, it's done based on tube counts, where they lay the tubes across the roadway, and it's called an automated traffic count, an ATR count.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Thank you very much for that answer. So I reviewed the plans, and I have a question for Mr. Hanley. I know you submitted the bridge design, right? And Mr. Hardeman's waiting for that response or that approval, correct?
Which one is it?
The
Mr.
bridge
Vitale?
design that you're
Yes.
submitted?
Yes.
So this isn't your first bridge construction. You've done a number of them in the town, right? So I mean, this isn't your first bridge. I mean, I know you've done them down April's Way, you've done them down on Boston Place, and a number of other ones in town. So this is just a continuance under new regulations, correct?
Yeah, you know, a bridge. The term bridge, I don't think is totally appropriate, right? The only reason it comes into play is because the span is over 10 feet. And when the span is over 10 feet, the state then puts it into their inventory. All it is a box culvert, three-sided box culvert that sits on footings. So it's really standard, but the challenge is getting DOT to review something before you guys formally act. And we've been doing that, so we've been working on that for maybe probably close to 6 months. We have all the structural calcs done. Everything is up at DOT. So it's understandable that, you know, once we get that final, we'll provide that to DPW.
Okay. So one more question I had regarding the postal CBU box you guys were planning to install. So now, was that approved by the postmaster?
Yes, I believe the location of that was reviewed and approved, and I'd have to kind of dig through to confirm that, but
okay.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Okay, and you have 2 parking spots there for people to pull in.
Correct.
Get their mail and then continue on to, so.
Yep.
Okay. Now I know you had a question about the affordable component down there, and we want to do the fee in lieu of. So, just as a comment from myself, I am all in favor of the fee in lieu of down there. I read Mr. Ginsburg's letter to Mr. Johnson, and I'm in agreement as far as that goes. I think the money could be spent wisely using the fee in lieu of component rather than putting the affordable houses down there. So that's my spin on the fee in lieu of question you had. So with that, I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Battaglia. Mr. Ryder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Battaglia asked and got the answers on my questions in regards to the what they like to call a bridge. A couple of questions I had in regards to traffic. Obviously, Main Street at Marshall is a dangerous intersection. Justin, I guess in your mind, any other additional concerns with the number of cars coming onto Marshall at Main? You know, we continue to add more and more cars through there, and that continued to be a cut through lately. That cut through from Main Street out to Borica, and that intersection's continuing to get more and more activity. Your concerns? Any concerns on that intersection?
We actually expressed concerns for the intersection to the other end of Marshall Street, the one that intersects with Whipple Road, with that kind of Delta Island with Pleasant Street. But as far as adding traffic, we didn't see a specific safety concern at Marshall and Main through the crash numbers, not necessarily through you know, boots on the ground per se. But we didn't see an issue there. We were more concerned with the issue at the intersection with Whipple and Pleasant Street. But provided the analysis and looking at the crash data, I mean, we're adding such a small number of cars to that intersection, and there doesn't seem to be a traffic or a crash history at that, or a crash trend.
Okay. Yeah, my other question was the opposite end, and you addressed it. Do you feel that there's any mitigation that can make that intersection safer? It is specifically during, you know, the hours of 7:30 to 9 and 1:30 to about 3 o'clock with the high school. Anything that you feel that may help that intersection?
I think anything to help that intersection would be more of a broad scale, larger project. Putting it here where, you know, Marshall Street is coming in before you hit the main intersection. There's just too many streets coming into too many locations. So I think adding the small number of traffic isn't going to necessarily, exacerbate any safety concerns that are out there. I think a larger scale project looking at, safety trends through that whole 3 roadway intersection there will be beneficial, but I don't see the added impacts of these small numbers of development traffic trips here that it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. Well, I mean, I raised that concern. Pleasant Street, we do have, I'm wondering if the numbers were taken into consideration of the new school on Pleasant Street, that intersection. And that's a concern. We're building a new elementary school at the site of, I know it's not part of the project, but it's more traffic impact and bus impact on that intersection. So this just added, that project's already approved, so I'm just concerned of that. I appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
And lastly, thank you, Justin. And lastly, I think everyone knows where I stand on this. I read the letter as well from Mr. Ginsburg. I'm going to have to disagree with the letter. I know Mr. Sadwick and I spent some time on this, and Mr. Sadwick was able to present some affordable options, whether it be a prefab house that could fit in that development. I'm very concerned that we continue going down this road of building what the market is bearing, and I understand what the market bears. It's a $700,000, $600,000 home, but we continue to have an issue with affordable housing, and we're kicking the can down the road. And at what point are we going to address it? I mean, we continue to have close to $4 million, maybe more at this point, in our town coffers for affordable housing. And I think if ultimately it falls back on the developer. If the developer has to build a certain number of affordable parcels, then that be the case. If the developer has to spend a little bit more money to put in an affordable unit, and it comes back that those units have to become affordable, at the end of the day, the project is still a profitable project. And when it comes back, I hate to see a letter, and I don't believe it was the intent of the letter, but if the affordable unit, and it's stated, if the affordable unit is required, he would rather go for a 40B. And me personally, I just don't think that's the answer. If a developer, whether it be this developer or another developer, has to put in affordable units, they turn around and say, well, I'm gonna put in 40B, and that scares everyone. But that shouldn't scare everyone, because a 40B development, that's the scare tactic, in my opinion. I'm just saying that I think we should take a hard look at this. I think there's an opportunity. You look at those houses around there, you look at the 2 parcels that you enter this development, proposed development, those, the houses would match with those. I think Mr. Sadwick presented some affordable options with prefab units that would, I believe, would fit in that area. And I don't believe there would be an issue in the neighborhood of bantering about an individual fitting in there. I just don't think that an affordable, the price for the affordable, meeting that affordable unit in Tewksbury is a downfall for somebody. A lot of people can't even meet that affordable value to purchase. So at some point, are we just going to continue to build these $700,000 developments as the market's bearing? And what do we do when we get to our next census and we do not have enough affordable units? I think this board needs to look at that. It really hasn't been a priority in the past. We've taken the fee in lieu of in too many projects, and I think it needs to be addressed. And we continue to kick the can down the road, it's not going to be a good for the town. But that's my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Anything, Mr. Hanley, or any of your team to respond on that, other than what Mr. Ginsburg said? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Mark Ginsburg. Hey, so it's not all about the money here. It's about the way the project's going to look there. And to say just to put in a prefab, which is the first I'm hearing about that anyways, it's just about the look of the project when it's all said and done. The town is getting money towards affordable units here. It isn't like they're getting nothing for that. The money will be spent at some point in time, the $4 million here for affordable units here. So it isn't like we're trying to circumvent the affordable component here altogether here. We're just going to an alternative means to get affordable housing. So I still think that route should be vetted out further before we just say, put it all on the developer to say, put the affordable unit in that, or this particular project here. So it's not about the money at all. Far from that. Because to be honest, it'd be just as cheap to build an affordable unit there is to pay the fee. I don't think it belongs in this type of subdivision. And so you're getting the money for it. It's meant to be used for affordable homes. Just because it won't get built today or tomorrow, the money will be spent for affordable housing. So I think that'll be achieved. So, and like I say in the letter there, when OSRDs are put into play, there was a density bonus given for affordable housing. So I know that was a detraction for the property. And so they gave all these things along the way and then took it back away from these type of developments over here. So, and that's not a threat that I'm putting 40B there. It's just a fact. If I'm going to build affordable homes, I'd rather do it the right way then and make it an affordable project out of it there. I don't even want to do it, but if that's what the board wants and wants to see affordable homes sprinkled into a regular subdivision there, then that's okay. But then let's go beyond 10%. Let's go to 25% and do it as a 40B. So if that's what you really want, do it that way there. And I'm not opposed to that, but it seems like we're trying to do two things at once on one property over here. And I just think take the money there, use it someplace else where you can build them with a blend better with the neighborhoods there. Maybe get more units out of it too if you go through the habitat. But if you want to start seeing affordable homes and put the burden, which is the town's burden, not the developer's burden, the town's burden to get to 25, to get to the 10% account, but they put it on the developers to do it, which is okay. We accept that as developers. But in the same token there, it can go both ways here. So, but if you want to see a true affordable project here and do it as what 40B was intended for there, then yes, if I have to build affordable homes, and for them in this case here, I might as well skip from 10%, go to 25%, and let's just do it. So, so it's not one of the threat by no means. I don't threaten that. Everybody knows I don't threaten.
No, I did say that. It wasn't intended as a threat. It's just a fact that we continue to kick the can down the road. And it's not just your development. We take it out on you. And I'm not saying that
we're paying.
Gentlemen, one at a time. Mr. Ryder, do you have anything more to say? Mr. Ginsburg, 1 second. Mr. Ryder, do you have anything more to say? Anything good to say?
As I was stating that it's not, at no point did I say it wasn't intended as a threat. I'm just concerned that at some point we have to address the affordable housing. We looked at that, Mr. Chairman. You were on the committee. You understand where I come from, that I don't think we should be taking money unless we're above our number. And if we're above our 10%, I'm 100% in agreement with taking the money because I think it can be spent wisely. And Mr. Ginsburg, I am 100% in, as I've said before in many meetings. I would be willing to sit down with you and anyone else that is willing, and we need to partner with a developer like yourself or another developer and try and come up with parcels that we can put 10, 15, 20 units in. I'm all for that idea. I just think we are pricing, I know the market is pricing Tewksbury people that have born and raised in this town, they're pricing them out of Tewksbury. And I'm just looking for a way to be able to continue to keep those Tewksbury people in town and continue to reinvest in the community. That's all I'm saying.
Duly noted, and I appreciate that. And once again, when it was 125,000 unit there, you're right. You probably couldn't get a lot of bang for your buck out of that. But when you're giving now 200, whatever the numbers, it's over 200,000. That's serious money. You're talking $1 million in this particular case there. And I know we have philosophical differences about how maybe a subdivision should look when it's all said and done. That's my pride talking there. I want to build the highest and best value in there, and nothing against affordable homes. I'm not trying to say they don't belong anywhere in a certain area there, but you're right. I would love to, and I have these discussions in the past too about trying to find land that can be used to build these monolithic affordable housings so everybody feels they're in the same type of development over there. And so, and what the exact thing is, I don't know, but I agree with that. And I think with $4 million, and now in this case, $5 million here, that could be achieved. So I don't want to circumvent the affordable component by no means. I'm all for paying for that fee there, and I'm all for doing whatever it can take here. And if I really thought that we can, you know, I started building back 30 years ago, building affordable homes for $129,000. So I know what it's like to feel a first-time home buyer there. We like that, but you're right. The market's just not dictating that. But it costs to buy the land and get it developed there. You're pressed against the market values out there, and so now you're trying to play that market value there with this affordable component there, and it just rubs hard. It just rubs hard. And we found success with paying the fee in the past because we have bought out affordable units here in the past with that money there. The money has gone somewhere over the millions of dollars I've collected over the years, and I still think there's going to be an avenue for that money to go elsewhere. Like I say, maybe not today or tomorrow, but and then over the next few years, I'm sure we'll find a place for that money to be spent, and I'll be the first one to volunteer our time into our equipment and whatever we can do to get them built to save even more money. And we have other avenues with the habitat too. So let's give us the opportunity to do that. And meanwhile, we're going to put together a nice looking property there, community within the community there. That I just feel, it's my own opinion there, that I just feel as though, nothing against people that live in affordable homes, that there's a purpose for that. But I just feel as though you put 4 of these homes in a 38 lot subdivision there. I don't care. Human nature is human nature there. I hate to be the person that created an environment there that's going to be the haves and the have-nots there. And as much as the merit is there for what we're trying to do here, it just, human nature does take over. Maybe not for the first set of home buyers, but the second home buyer that bought in there, and wasn't the initial person that was in there. And I just don't want to create any disputing neighbors because where they live. And it's just an unfortunate thing to even say that. That's just the way. I don't want to create something I don't need to create. I'd rather put the time in there. If it costs more money to put the affordable houses someplace else, I'd rather do that than put the affordable housing in this particular project. And that's just me. Doesn't mean I'm right or wrong. That's just my opinion, and I really believe in that. So no offense to you. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little long-winded with it, but that's just how I feel about it.
Thank you, Mr. Ginsburg. Thank you, Mr. Ginsburg.
Thank you.
Mr. Delaney.
Wow, I guess a lot of things have been said. There's two things here. We either accept the fee in lieu of, or you get an affordable house. My opinion is that if I was buying the affordable house in that project, with the houses, or I was buying a house in that project and I had an affordable unit beside me, is my house still worth the same after I buy it? The thing is, the fee in lieu of, Mr. Vitalia can tell you, we have built habitat houses that are affordable. They cost $125,000 to build them. If we have certain properties, we can let the Habitat Commission build these houses. And then what happens is, instead of 4 units, with $125,000 a unit, you're going to end up with 7 or 8 units if we get the right project or the right place. Another system that Mr. Sedgwick was also looking into for a while was helping the builders with some of that money to bring their percentages up, to help them put the affordable units in a condo building or whatever the case may be. And then if you get it up to the 23% or 25%, you get all of them. So the fee in lieu of, I suppose, in some people's eyes could be bad, but in my eyes, I think it's good. I think it works for this particular project. So the thing is, first of all, my comments on this project was, I'm not a bridge builder, so I have to have engineers tell me how to build a bridge. Well, it looks like we got all the documentation for the bridge. We got the roads, we got everything here. They have done a fine effort to bring all the answers to all the questions that we have here. The last item was traffic. You know something? When I first looked at it, I didn't even think traffic would be an issue. And according to the two traffic studies, traffic isn't an issue. So that question has been answered. I just think that the money for affordable, if we got $4 or $5 million in an account for affordable housing, I think somewhere we can come up with a plan to get more than 4 units or 7 units of affordable housing. How it can be done, there's more powers to be out there that can do this. But I think in this particular case, the fee in lieu of works for me, and I think even for Mr. Vitalia, because I've talked to him, he's on the Habitat Committee. You know, he could use more money to build affordable houses. And I think this does it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, one thing, and I know everybody's free to change their mind or, voice whatever, but I thought as we discussed this from its initial time coming in and as we've gone along, I was under the impression that we had given the developer the impression from the board that we were going to be all right with the fee in lieu of. So, I mean, I would think that that's why they've proceeded the way they have. Again, people are free to change their mind or comment different than previously or voice it differently. That's fine. But that was my impression. I thought we had this conversation at least once, if not more than once, as this has gone along from its, initial time coming in all the way to, when it was officially submitted. So that's one thing.
Mr. Johnson, I did bring this up in the beginning, and I asked Mr. Sadwick to do research on this, and I believe in one of our zoning bylaw committee meetings, Mr. Sadwick presented us, the board, and the zoning committee with information on units that would fit in this development. And from the beginning, I was adamant about bringing this up. So this isn't something that I talked about potentially a side cul-de-sac off of this cul-de-sac. So, and I understand, I'm just saying I did discuss this from the initial meeting that we had many, many months ago.
My intention wasn't to say
Mr. Johnson, Mr. Johnson, if I may.
Yes.
I know you understand this. Mr. Ryder, if you have something you want to comment on, please comment through me.
Absolutely. My apologies, Mr. Chair.
That's all right. I know it's getting late. But anyways, back to Mr. Johnson.
So my intention wasn't to say that was unanimous. It was just, I had the impression as we went along that enough of the board had given the petitioner the feeling that the fee in lieu of was going to work for this project, that it would be reasonable for them to have continued on with that expectation. So, but that's my thought on the fee in lieu, or at least in this case. I mean, the more general thing is, I mean, we do take the fee in lieu of. It's in the rules. It's going to be in the rules as it is for at least another year. So, we are going to have to remember that is an option given to developers.
We lost Mr. Johnson. Brian, Jason, we lost Mr. Johnson. Hello?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure. It appears he's having low bandwidth issues too.
Okay.
According to the exclamation mark, that's what that means.
Okay.
I think we should just give him a few minutes and see if he comes back.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, can you hear us?
Maybe someone should text him.
think Steve's had an issue or two before, but he's usually pretty good about getting right back on.
Mr. Johnson, can you hear us? Let's see, Vinny's up there. Nothing from Mr. Johnson. Mr. Delaney, are you there? Can you hear?
Yes, I am.
Well,
I just checked Steve. They'll tell him he's offline.
okay, thank you for that. Mr. Johnson, are you back?
He's logging back in now.
Okay, thank you.
That's okay. I can take my break.
While we're waiting for Mr. Johnson, if everybody would like to take a break, we'll take a 2-minute break. Do you have that, Jason?
That's fine. Whenever you're ready to resume.
Jason, if you could tell me when Mr. Johnson is back.
Yep, I'm just waiting to see if he pops on. So
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Delaney is back. Is Mr. Johnson here?
I am back.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Johnson, do you have anything more you'd like to add, or are you all set?
I would love to tell you all that you all missed some incredible oratory by me during that time when I kept talking that wasn't online. But that would be untrue because I noticed I fell off right away. The only other thing, I mean, it's not necessarily specific to this. I'm going to continue to beat this horse to death over and over. That Mr. Ryder made the comment that people are being priced out, and I agree. And I think that part of the reason that is because there are too few options for developing property, and that goes back to what I've been going on and on about pretty much every chance I get, which is that we don't have anything other than single acre zoning in town, which means you have to buy property and then not use 2/3 of it or 3/4 of it when you build a house. You have no choice but to build $750,000 home to make back your money. So it's not specific to this project, but it goes to the bigger issue. So when we say things like, people are being priced out, they're being priced out because the only thing you can build is either you're doing something like this or you're forced to build like we just did earlier tonight when we approved 9 single lot right there, earlier in the meeting. That is not what they really wanted to do, but had no choice but to create 9 lots. And I think that's also part of this discussion. It's not just a fee in lieu of, it's not 40B versus that all comes into play. And we're going to have to deal with it as well. And I think other than, as to some of the outstanding issues, it sounds like, I haven't heard what the waivers are yet, but it sounds like the other outstanding issues are being resolved. So provided they are, going to be resolved, I'm fine with everything else that we have in front of us. So I'm all set otherwise.
Very good, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Thank you. Applaud Mr. Delaney for his nice speech, everything he put on the table, because everything he said, I feel. So it's easy for me to say I'm all set, but I'm all set for those reasons. Going on, Mr. Hanley, you had some more. You wanted to. Are you ready to do the waivers now, or do you have something more to discuss?
I think the only thing left is the waivers right now to just, I think you're up to speed with where we are, yeah.
Okay. Well, fine. Why don't you present those then?
Okay, we have 4. Oh.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just wanted to make sure I got you a lot. Thanks.
All right. Say it again.
I just want.
Sure.
Okay. So I was speaking to town council, and this is kind of like a new process going forward.
Yep.
It's the board's decision how they would like to go forward with this. Like town council for waivers, and that the board should be stating the findings for each item. So the reason why it's being waived.
Okay.
And also, I just want to jump ahead a little bit, just so, since I have the floor right now. For the conditions for the HOA, town council was looking into the drafts. When we get to that, if we get to that, I have a final version that's been revised.
Okay.
That the board didn't see, but for that, also the conditions really to be read out loud. So that's something I can certainly do. And the waivers should be read out loud, so that's something I can do as well. And then in this particular case, we have an HOA. And so town council use those, and it's preferred that all the conditions, everything's finalized, and then town council can review that, the conditions,
right,
and give feedback on it before a final vote. This is a new process. I don't know how the board wants to handle that. And then the last item that I have was just in this particular case, if you guys get to it, there for a condition, there's one on easements.
Okay.
So going forward, it'd be helpful for town council and the staff to have a copy of those easements during the earlier process and the hearing process.
Okay.
A copy to review it. But once again, this is a new process, so I don't know what the board wants to do. So those are all my items. I just wanted to make sure I touch base on that before, a good time. So that's it.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. McGinty. Is Mr. Sadrock still available?
I believe he's on the call, Mr. Chairman, but I'm not sure. Looks like he's muted. Oh, I believe he was going to stay on the meeting for the majority of the meeting.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, while you're waiting for Mr. Sadwick to come on.
Mr. Ginsburg.
So just not to remind, but Anna, maybe you can jump in too if you like. So most of the waivers that we're asking for are part of the new subdivision rules and regulations that are going to be before you guys. So these aren't stuff that we made up and decided to plan around our own dimensions and whatnot. These are stuff that have been talked about for the last year, and and that we decided that this project would be the first one we're going to try it on, even though you guys haven't voted the actual regulations in. That's why they're coming in more as a waiver than as part of the regulations. So Anna and Jim can probably explain which ones they are, but they're part of the new subdivision rules and regulations going forward.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ginsburg. Mr. Sadwick, there now?
Yes.
Hi, Steve. I don't know if you've had the opportunity or if you were listening to what Anna was saying about town council and waivers, town council and the the HOA. What was your input on that?
Town council, he said in the waivers that we should have a public purpose as to why waivers are being granted. And I caught Mark's piece about some of the things being what we were working on in the new subdivision or revised subdivision rules and regulations. I don't, Mark, I'm not sure, and Jim Hanley can kind of weigh in on this. I think that the waivers that were requested were all specific to the waiver, to what's on the books today. It's not the new design or what we'd be looking for in the future. So there's that issue with town council. And then Bob, what was the other question?
Anna?
The easement question.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the easement question. You know, we're all trying to do this better. All of us being staff, the planning board, the applicants. And as far as the easements are concerned, in my mind, I think that we would be okay if we took the easements within 120 days of town meeting, or they were provided to us 120 days prior to town meeting. It would be helpful if we had these documents coming into a planning board public hearing, but we're this far right now into the hearing process, and we've gone through a number of the technical items here. In my mind, I don't think easements are going to kill a project as it's being developed. So I would, again, it was recommended to us that easements be delivered prior to an approval, but I'm comfortable that if we receive them with 120 days of town meeting, it'd be okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment if I could, please.
Go right ahead, Secretary.
So I guess I know that the town council wants to initiate this rule and that rule and so forth going forward, but it's almost like changing the rules mid-game. So here's an applicant that's in front of us, and now we want to change the rules before we give him an approval. So if we want to do this going forward, then I say fine. Well, let's do it before a new special permit comes up, so we're not delaying the process for an applicant that's already in place.
So you're saying that Mr. Hingley should represent the waivers based on the old bylaw, the way it was done?
And the fact that the HOA wants to get reviewed by the town council before we and so forth and so on.
Well, that's another issue. What's that?
Do prior to our approval.
I think we're primarily talking now about the waivers.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Ginsburg.
So just so you know, it's a little background. We've been going back and forth with Anna, the whole group of us here, the town side and the town council, our council there, both the HOA and for the conditions there. And we have agreed to all of them there. So as much as it may seem new to maybe you guys hearing it for the first time or seeing it for the first time, we've been talking about it for a few weeks now. So I am okay as the applicant for what they're asking for. So as much as I appreciate that it's new to you guys and it was new to us too, we went back and forth this quite a bit to get down to this resolution of what we have in front of us now. So I am good with everything I'm looking for as far as the HOA goes and as far as the draft conditions go.
Well, very good. Thank you, Mr. Ginsburg.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, stating the purpose and the reasons on the waivers, I suppose you take the, it seems to be reasonable based on discussions the town's having on future subdivision rules and regulations that it would be consistent with those. I don't know if that's a viable reason or not, but at least I'm offering that out there for you.
I think it is, but, Mr. Chadwick. You all set with that?
Yeah, but I would hate to, I mean, it's okay to make that part of this conversation, but I don't think that any decision that the board issues should reference anything that is a future parameter that we would have in our subdivision control rules and regulations.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, again, so do we weigh in on this decision why we asked for the waiver then? Is that the same as you giving the decision why you're going to grant or not grant the waiver? I mean, would that help? Because obviously there's reasoning behind every waiver there. So I guess when Jim goes to lay them out in front of you, if you want to talk, break them down one by one, we can say what the waiver's for, and we'll say, I guess we'll try and give a reason. There's obviously a reason behind why we asked for the waiver. Is that good enough? If you think it's good enough to say why you're going to accept the waiver, then that's the reason right there, I guess.
I think that's what they're looking for. Is that correct, Mr. Chadwick?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yes. Right. Mr. Hanley,
Yes,
you have the list of waivers.
I do. Yeah. And,
Ms. McGinty?
Sorry, I didn't know if anyone from the public needed to speak. I left the room for a minute, so I wasn't sure if anyone was on the line.
What, is there someone on the line?
No, but I didn't hear that. So I
Yeah.
just left for a minute.
Well, let's find out. Jason O'Brien?
Yeah, we have no callers, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. So we can go on, Anna, with the list of waivers?
Yeah, I don't have any additional comments.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Hanley?
yes, terrific. So if you look at sheet one,
Yep.
the plan set, the current plan set, and then we also provided a letter when we did the initial submission back in January, I think it was. We have 4 waivers essentially. So I think part of what we tried to do here was look at what the new proposed subdivision regulations are going to be, and then design around those, okay? But any of these waivers here are specific to the current subdivision regulations that are in place right now. So these 4 are fairly standard. Waiver number 1 is a waiver from section 8.1.10 to allow for a reduction in the right-of-way width from 50 feet to 40 feet, and reduction in the pavement width from 32 feet down to 24 feet. Waiver number 2 is from.
Want to take these one at a time? Why don't we take these one at a time?
Sure. Yep.
That way, unless might be a question on 1 or 2 of them, and that's going to mess up a vote. All right.
Sure.
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I do have a final version that's a clean version that I could show to my screen if you prefer.
Okay. I have my copy, but go ahead.
So I had been revising it, and now the waivers are now in their own section. So I can share my screen if you'd like.
Okay. All right.
So while we get that screen up and running, Mr. Chairman, this one waiver really is specific to what's needed in a right of way. We really don't need the 40 feet in order to put the roadway in, 1 sidewalk, and then the utilities. In a 40 foot is more conventional and fits what we need as part of the width of the actual roadway. What infrastructure is actually going to fit in there? So that's part one of waiver one. And then the part two is a little bit more straightforward and easier to envision. The current regulations require that 32 feet of pavement, which is well in excess of what is actually needed. And there's a lot of negatives that go along with the additional width, the additional 8 feet of pavement times the 3,500 feet of roadway, in terms of stormwater infiltration, maintenance, all of that kind of stuff. So, just to give you a little bit of support on those on that first one.
One other point, Mr. Chairman, I think that the board's been looking at over the past few years is we have a few subdivision roads in town that are 32 feet wide, which I prefer to refer to as New England Dragway. But you know, it's been well documented by studies from the University of Massachusetts that when you have a roadway that big, it just is a it's just inviting excessive speed on the road.
I don't disagree. Mr. Hanley?
Yes.
If I may, looking ahead, as I'm sure you have, section 2, 3, and 4 are really part of section 1, correct? On the waivers?
Yeah, yep. So would you like me to walk through those as well?
Yeah, that would be one vote then. If they're all the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I see. Right, so then waiver 2 is just the next section in the actual subdivision regulations, 8.1.12, which is to allow for a reduction in the right-of-way width from 50 feet to 40 feet. So just kind of states it twice there.
Right. Section 3?
Okay, so number 3, section 9.51 is to allow the sidewalk installation on one side of the roadway.
Right.
And then finalize that there. In my short time working in the town here, I think there's been an agreement that the grass strip becomes a maintenance issue. And I believe the new regulations will address that, but we're asking for relief from providing the grass strip between the sidewalk and the curbing to the other side of the sidewalk.
All right. All right. So that's item 1 through 4. Is any discussion from the board on those first 4? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the board on 1 through 4?
Make a motion to approve 1 through 4, Mr. Chairman. It was 1 through 4.
Where was that? Any discussion? Hearing none. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the ayes have it. Anna, do we need a roll call vote on this?
Yes, we need to do it.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Fattalia?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you.
So
I'm sorry?
would you like me to continue?
Please.
Okay, so the next one is specific to the land disturbance permit. As you know, we're going through an extremely thorough review by DPW, Conservation, DEP. We've even increased the design standard to meet EPA's new development regulations, which is above and beyond everything. So I think the intention of the land disturbance is to make sure that erosion, sediment control, and stormwater is addressed. I think without a doubt, there's a lot of eyes on this, and it has been addressed.
Good.
The request is to waive the land disturbance permit obligation.
Thank you, Mr. Henley. Board members, any questions? on item 5? Hearing none. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, there was no motion on that one.
I thought there was. All right.
No.
We have a motion. I'm sorry. Motion
I'll
on
make a
that.
motion. So moved.
Moved.
Second,
Second.
on the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Patalia,
Aye.
Mr. Ryder,
Aye.
Mr. Delaney,
Aye.
and Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Hanley.
Last request for a waiver is to allow, is to waive the construction of 10% of the affordable units for the fee in lieu. We had a pretty good conversation on that tonight. That's the last waiver.
Very good. Thank you.
Motion
We
to
have a motion.
Chairman, waiver number 6.
With that motion, Mr. Patalia?
Yes, motion to approve waiver number 6 as requested.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 No.
Opposed?
Yes.
The ayes have it. Mr. Patalia?
Aye.
Mr. Ryder?
No.
Mr. Delaney?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Mr. Hanley, are we all set with the waivers?
That is all the waivers, yep.
Yes, okay. Ms. McGinty, what is your pleasure this afterwards? Are we going to look at the, I'm trying to get it in front of me here, the draft conditions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So I have the revised draft conditions here.
Okay.
The numbering has changed. 2 items were removed, so the waivers got moved to their own section.
Okay.
And then item about the roadway being intended to be a public way has been removed just because it's not necessary to put in a draft conditions.
Okay.
And then through different revisions, the numbering just has changed. And also the version that you have, there's been a little bit of additional items to 1 or 2 of them, a couple of these. So
Okay.
if you prefer, I can read it out loud. I don't know what you want.
Well, you have it all chronologically, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So if you want to submit that as such, everybody can see that, correct?
Yeah, so I think if we can just go through it slowly, that would be helpful. And you guys can see where the changes were, so.
That's fine. Item A. Anybody have any questions on item A? That's the performance bond.
Nope.
Hearing none? No questions. We could probably go through all of these and take a vote on all of them. Is that all right, Ms. McGinty?
You could do that, or you could wait to the end just for efficiency, since there's a
Well,
number of conditions.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, we can go through them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Post them and state them and then vote on in one vote, right?
I agree, so.
Okay.
Yep. B has
We have, okay, item B. I'm sorry, we didn't, we discussed enough on item A, right?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Item B, any discussion? Hearing none. Item C,
Yeah, so this is regarding the easement. The change to this is the last sentence. All easements shall be submitted to the town of Tewksbury a minimum of 120 days prior to town meeting. So that's a new addition.
Okay.
Everybody else set with item C? Thank you.
Yes.
Item D,
So this one, item D, I believe this has not changed.
all right. So any discussion by the board members on item D? Hearing none.
None.
Item E, homeowners association. Ann? Yeah.
Yeah, so the last sentence was an addition to it, and
Okay.
and then the first sentence has changed. Town council just recommended to have additional language in it. Just to mirror kind of the HOA of what he would recommend for that. So
yeah.
Okay.
So this I think if people can read it on the screen, that's sufficient. But
Sure.
It looks good.
Yep, that's fine. Everybody else set item E?
Yeah.
Very good. Item F.
So this has not changed. So item F has not changed, yeah.
Okay, good. Item G. That should stay the same.
Yeah, so G and H have stayed the same, and I is a new one. So, but I'll just let you go back to G. Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right. What did you say? Did you say H also?
H did not change. I is a new one that you guys did not see.
Right. Okay, so we're all set on item H, correct? Right. Item I. Any questions on item I?
No.
Nope.
Good. All right, thank you, Ms. McGinty. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, you need to close the hearing first.
Oh, sorry. Motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second, on the motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Nobody didn't rush that off too quickly.
Roll call on that.
Yes, we have. Roll call vote. Mr. Fratalia.
Aye.
Mr. Ryder.
Aye.
Mr. Delaney.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
And the chairman votes aye. Thank you. Do we have anything else, Ms. McGinty?
Nope. Mr.
You're all
Chairman, I
set,
don't
right?
have anything else.
I'm sorry?
I don't have anything else, Mr. Chairman. So
Very good. Thank you very much. Good. Mr. Sadler, are you all set?
I'm good.
Very good. Mr. Sadler.
Mr. Chair, just a question.
Yes.
Are we
Yes.
okay that we voted on the waivers before we closed the hearing?
I didn't think we'd close it here.
I made a motion on that, I thought.
Oh, yeah, you're right. We should vote again then. That's correct. You're right, Mr. Johnson. May I now have a motion to close the hearing?
So move.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none on the motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Roll call vote. Secretary.
Aye.
Mr. Ryder.
Aye.
Mr. Delaney.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And I think we are done. We're all set.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board.
You're welcome. Normally when the chair comes in and he gets a 10-minute hearing, 10-minute vote, so that's not good.
Mr. Chairman.
3-hour meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can Dawn check on that? Because I'm not sure.
There was no vote to approve it. I was just gonna say that.
There's no vote.
Oh,
to
my
approve
God.
it.
Yeah, the vote to approve did not happen.
Okay.
I thought.
We had a motion.
The last 10 o'clock, so I'm feeling a little tired.
That's all right. Do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the 325 Marshall Street definitive subdivision open space special permit as discussed.
You got you got that all down pat, Vinny. Good job. Do we have a second?
Second.
On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Roll call vote. Mr. Battaglia.
Aye.
Mr. Delaney.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Ryder.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And I think Mr. Ginsburg threw me a curve when he thanked me. I'll blame him. That's all right. Thank you very much. We all set with this?
Yep.
I believe so, yes.
Very good. Yeah, good.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, 2512 Main Street. Site special permit continue for 6/8. And
That's me, Mr. Chairman. I just need a minute to.
Mr. Hanley, go right ahead.
Yep.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead, Mr. Hanley.
Okay, just give me 1 minute to find my notes. Six. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen here. I assume you can see this architectural plan, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So previously met on April 27th. And what I'd like to do tonight, I guess I'll give you a brief overview because again, it's been a long time. I think we have everything lined up tonight. We've addressed all of the technical comments and I'll talk a little bit more about that and then also the planning comments. But this is Hobart's Country Store located at 2512 Main Street, which is an existing liquor store / convenience store. It sits on about an acre, 0.2. It has 218 feet of frontage on Main Street. About half the lot is wetland. It has a large, let's see if I can show this here. This might give it a little bit more context. This was the existing conditions plan here. 50%, we have basically an existing two-story wood frame building that didn't meet any of the setbacks, front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks. So what are we proposing to do? Just to kind of walk you through this one more time here. So what are we doing? What we're proposing is a 4,295 square foot building to replace the existing building. So the use is going to be the same. It's going to be a mixture of liquor store / convenience store. If you look at the traffic circulation on this here, let's see. Okay. You look at the traffic circulation that we have here, you have basically a 30-foot access drive opening here for vehicles to come in. You have a 20-foot wide traffic aisle, 17 parking spaces, and dedicated out left and right. So it's one-way traffic. That's the only way we could get it to fit with a reasonable sized building to satisfy the owners, and then try to meet all of the setbacks and conservation regulations associated with the development. Then we obviously have provisions for landscaping, dumpsters, drainage, utilities. So what have we done since the last time we met on the 27th? So one of the bigger things that we didn't have at the time of the submission, we didn't have at the time of the hearing, was the architectural rendering. So the applicant has been working with Gavin and Sullivan on a roll to put together this plan. This one I received today, nearly identical, building obviously the same size, but they've added 2 windows to the front facade. We'll forward this along to the, so it might be slightly different than what you have in front of you. And obviously we'll forward this along to Anna tomorrow. So that was one big thing is that we had to get you the architectural drawings. And then on the technical side, we kind of had like 2 issues here going back and forth that we were trying to clean up. One was just general housekeeping, clean up on the stormwater management system. We also needed to get a test pit done. So you can see that we have, I'm going to kind of zoom in here and draw a line. But there's an existing drainage line that comes off of Route 38 and comes into our site. Now this line comes out of the DOT right away. So we understand it to be a DOT drainage line. But as you can imagine, sometimes their records aren't the best. So we went back and forth with DPW, and they asked us to basically go out, do some exploratory test pits with them out there as well, so that they could kind of observe what we're doing and dig up this line to confirm where it is horizontally and vertically. What we found was that the end of this line is more than 5 feet below grade. It's totally and completely buried. And that is about 15 feet short of the wetland line. It sits in the ground about 5 feet deep. What we've done to just maintain the existing connection that the system has, I'm not sure functionally how well, I know how poorly, I should say, that it functions just based on the observations we made in the field. You can see we have a series of pipes here that go along the perimeter of the building and just maintain that existing connection. So that's basically kind of the remainder of the comments. Now, I did get a review letter from DPW on Thursday of last week. And we put some time into attempting to address this. And one comment that I think I'd like to discuss with you guys a little bit is specific to that drainage pipe. And that's really the only comment that we have. But essentially, DPW has a concern that because we're increasing the length of the bypass pipe, you have the same elevation difference, but you have an increased length, so you have a reduction in capacity. So what we're willing to do certainly is provide an increased diameter pipe to exceed or meet the capacity of the existing network. So right now we're a little bit short, but if we go from a 12-inch pipe to a 15-inch pipe, we feel that that's adequately addresses the existing condition. What we're also willing to do, and what we also are doing, is providing an easement where one does not exist today. So let's see if we have it on this one. We don't have it on this one, but I do have it. I do have it up here. So you can see what we've done is that we provided an easement. So now I'm not sure if it's the town's actual pipe or the state's. I'm under the impression that it is DOT's pipe. But we have now provided and will provide an easement to both the town and the state to be able to go in there and maintain that existing system. That's about as good as we can do. In DPW's first comment, you'll see that essentially, I just kind of highlighted this so I wouldn't lose it, but should the applicant desire to relocate the drain line, the applicant shall be required to make modifications to the existing drainage system that provide positive drainage without any loss of capacity or submerged pipes. And we're good with that because I think that's what we're doing. This shall include replacing pipes between the catch basins and drain manholes on Main Street and on State Street. So I think my response, basically, I tried to outline what the situation is. I tried to provide some background on that pipe. The fact that it's clogged, it's 5 feet below grade, it's submerged, it doesn't function. We'll provide the bypass. We'll increase the diameter of that pipe if that's what you would like to see. It will also provide an easement, which will then provide access down the line. So I just kind of wanted to be very upfront with you as well as DPW. We submitted this letter on Friday, just kind of basically saying that that's as good as we can do. We really can't justify going into Main Street or State Street to provide drainage improvements for a pipe that's 5 feet below grade that doesn't work right now. So I just kind of wanted to be very clear on that. In addition to those things, we've also been working with Anna's office reviewing draft conditions. I think the last one I had seen, we're in agreement. We accept all of that stuff, and I think we're ready to hopefully answer any questions you guys might have.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. I had two questions. Number one is, I'm not sure if you said it, but are you waiting for a response back from the DPW?
No, not particularly. I think that, I guess I'm looking for feedback from the board because from where we stand, the standard has always been, improve what you can, don't make the situation worse, which I believe that's what we've done. The step beyond that is to improve a situation that currently doesn't function. And that's kind of like where, as the engineer and the guy that's providing guidance to the applicant, that's something that we've never really had to do, never been asked to do. And it, to me, seems like a step too far.
All right. I concur that sometimes it changes, but we have received letters from the town engineer where he states that he not as is not ready to okay an approval on this as of yet. But I'm looking for it now, and it's been so long I'm not putting my fingers on it.
Yeah, no,
So,
it's right here. If you can see my screen here. DPW withholds providing a recommendation to the planning board.
oh, there you go. All right.
Obviously 2, 3, 4, 5, we have no issue with. I'd just like to get some feedback from the board on comment.
On number one?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, Anna, do you have any input on this?
Okay. So I just have updated when, if you're going to do this, the draft waivers as a separate section and draft conditions. But other than that, I did add in a condition for just the town, any easements to be provided to the town, and then go to town meeting, just like the other condition we previously did in the other hearing. So
Okay.
That's my only comment.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm all set.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add one more thing?
Okay.
One of the comments from the DPW was to provide the permit from the DOT. That's something we've since we submitted this. Something we have, and we actually provided it in the review letter on that we submitted last week. So we actually have a DOT permit. I think that's a DOT pipe. I think we satisfy the conditions, and that's it.
Is it your feeling that you feel, well, this is a new curve. I haven't seen this letter. Has anybody, Anna, have you seen this letter?
What was that submitted, Mr. Chairman?
The letter from the DOT to DOT, or from DOT?
I honestly don't recall at this moment, but there's been a very busy week, so I wouldn't trust my memory right now. I'm sorry.
All right, no, not a problem. Jim, let me ask you a $64,000 question. Do you feel you have everything addressed this evening so you would want to be looking for a vote?
You know what? Yeah, I really do. I think that, I mean, we try to exhaust our involvement to try to address technical comments. This one caught me a little bit by surprise. And that's why I was so quick to write a letter and just put it into writing so that you guys can take a look at it, because I think your input to me on that first comment would be valuable as to what direction I ask you to go tonight.
Yeah. Well, I feel uncomfortable right this minute. I'm not saying in 2 minutes I won't feel uncomfortable, but right this minute I feel uncomfortable because should I have received this letter or before?
I'm not sure which letter. Did you?
Well, you just changed the letter. Okay. No, the DOT.
So the DOT's letter is a permit. That's their permit to allow access into the site. So they performed a review of our site, and they've issued this permit.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, it's in your package attached to Civil Design Consultant's letter dated July 10th. So it's attached to that.
Thank you, Anna. I mean, thank you, Don. Let me look. Does everyone else have a copy of that?
Yes. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4th page in that, but it's front and back, so you don't see the cover letter unless you open it all the way up.
All right.
From the,
Oh, I see. Okay. I've got it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nelson.
Not a problem. Jim tried to hide it.
Not on the back page. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is Kevin Hardiman. I've got a comment if I could.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So reading the Mass DOT permit, it looked like it granted the applicant the authority to construct the sidewalks in the driveway, but not move the drainage pipe. This is a topic that I have discussed with the director, Mr. Gilbert. And he is adamant that, that pipe should not be altered, unless it's ensured that it's going to be functional once it's altered. That not only drains Main Street, but it also drains the end of South Street. So it's important to us that pipe, properly. I understand it is submerged now, but there's been no consideration to leave that pipe where it is, leave things well enough alone with the applicant's proposal. There could be consideration to reconfigure the shape or size of the building, and then they wouldn't have to alter that pipe at all. As it is, that pipe comes, I think, about 10 feet from the edge of the proposed structure. If the town ever had to go in and make modifications to that, it's very challenging for us to make any repairs with that limited space and a dwelling that close. So I guess in short, as is, the DPW is taking exception to the plan, moving that drain pipe, and look to have the applicant find alternate means of developing the site without having to alter the town and state pipe.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Chairman's gone.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
So if I understand what Mr. Hardiman just said, in his version, the plan I'm looking at, the existing, which is that red line on that plan that runs through, I'm not sure exactly, but it'd be like a third, more than a third of the building, in order for you to both leave the pipe and leave you the space you're talking about to be able to go in and possibly do anything with it, more than a third of the building would have to be removed. Closer to coming down to half. Right?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Hardiman, are you ready? Mr. Johnson, you ready for the answer from Mr. Hardiman?
I guess I'm waiting for an answer from anybody who has the answer to what I just asked. But it sounds like in order for you to comply with what Mr. Hardiman just said, nearly half of the building that's being proposed would have to go away to both leave the pipe alone and leave enough space for someone to go in and if they had to do something.
Well, if there was no compromise, I would say yes, but there was always the possibility of a compromise. Mr. Ryder.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This question is Mr. Hardiman still on? Now, Mr. Hanley, what does that 12-inch RCP? What does that 12-inch RCP? Does it daylight in the back of the property, or is it completely submerged?
Okay, so this is the entire thing here. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen still. I believe you all can see it. Down here, this existing drain manhole, it actually leaves this manhole plus or minus 2 feet in elevation below the wetland line. Okay, below the wetland elevation. And we originally, we're in the original design, we said, well, we'll connect the 2 pipes out in the field. There's no reason to rip everything apart right now.
Right.
DPW asked us to go and investigate further, so that's what we did. So over here, this end of pipe in elevation 93.7. Now, the existing wetland here is at elevation 98.8. So this pipe is 5 feet below grade. It does not outlet. Just looking at the maps, the GIS information for this whole large wetland regime, There's no, it's not like we can knock out 15 feet to get to daylight. It's completely 100% submerged. In our opinion, it's probably a relic from the DOT drainage system when it was installed 50, 60, 70 years ago. So it doesn't work now. And then, so that's why it's hard to wrap my mind around why we would remove half the building if the pipe doesn't work now.
Well, and that's partly my question. Has the line ever been dye tested? I mean,
we uncovered it. So we uncovered it, and it was immediately gushing with water, meaning it was completely submerged. So when we dug this hole out down around the outlet pipe, it just started to gurgle back up into the pit.
Okay.
Which makes sense because groundwater elevation is somewhere around this 98. This thing is sitting down below 94.
Right. Now I'm looking, is there a part of this parcel, does anything in the back end of the parcel drop that you could go to the opposite side, obviously being more pipe, but can you basically gain capacity? Is there elevation? It's the entire wetland elevation at 98.8.
Right, so that's the problem. I mean, if there was a way to, more pipe, I feel like this 100 feet of pipe here in 4 manholes is a total complete waste of money, but we'll do it to try to just maintain the existing connection. You can see this line here is the 99 contour, and that's basically parallel with that wetland line. So those wetland flag elevations are somewhere less than 90, but nowhere near the 93 it would need to be.
I mean, my only concern would be, even leaving it as, even changing and putting the 4 manholes in. I think you could probably eliminate 1 and go to 3. And probably come out off of the one in the edge of the curb. You're getting a much better flow direction than coming in you're coming in almost just a little grade at less than 90, and then going another 90, almost 90, and then out. I'm wondering, would it be better suited to go back to that original manhole at the CB right at the front one at your driveway or in the sidewalk, and that would, if DOT ever does anything, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what the directional flow is on the opposite side of the street, because it seems that if that's your inverts at 99.78, water has to flow the other way. Or either that or that manhole, is there another pipe somewhere else and taking it the opposite way?
Yeah, so that's a good point. There might be. That existing pipe network, to me, looks like a bowl of spaghetti. We did everything we could in the immediate surrounding area to try to confirm that this is the only outlet pipe. Now, this is the only outlet pipe that we found. And it goes through our site, and I think it's a DOT pipe. I don't even think it is a common Tewksbury pipe. I don't know that for 100% because there's no easement on record, but I believe it's even a DOT pipe. So you made a suggestion relative to relocating the existing pipe network or reconfiguring it, which we're certainly open to.
Yeah, going to the, I would prefer to go to the left side as you're doing with your overflow.
Yeah.
And basically go from the manhole at the edge of curb, in which the one is at 99, the invert's at 99.78. And then you've got at your invert at your outflow 98.6. You're getting some sort of pitch. I just don't know how that'll impact your manhole at your Caltech system.
Well, so let's be careful here, because this manhole, this is the existing manhole that the discharge pipe leaves. Yep. And that's at 96.57, right? So we're well below, right? So I think you were looking at the elevation.
Yeah, I was looking at. Sorry, I was looking at the CB invert.
Right.
I'm trying to.
Right.
The print is pretty small here, so it's late.
So, yep. So let me. If we're going to talk about reconfiguring here, what seems to make sense to me is that. I mean, this system literally is a waste of money because it discharges 5 feet below grade, right? But one alternative could be to reconfigure this outlet here and provide an outlet pipe that cores into the side of this up at a certain elevation. So the outlet out of this manhole is 99.1. And if we just brought this back from this manhole that happens to be in this general location here, this rim is at 103.57.
Yep.
So it seems like that could help alleviate the flooding that goes on out there. Now the system, the pipes that lead into this manhole are still going to be submerged. They're just submerged, right? But when it gets up to now there's 99, call it 100, which would be 3 feet below grade.
Right.
Could then start to pass and push up.
Right, and that's what I'm looking at. Right, I'm looking at your rim grade, and that's really all I'm concerned with, because if you can keep your rim grade below at your outlet, you're going to eliminate flooding on Route 38. And then what that does is if DOT ever addresses any of the drainage, now they have a positive outflow on the drainage pipe out to that swale. So my opinion, just my opinion is, obviously DPW has the final say, but I think that would be the best. Recore that closer to the top of the pipe. You could come, 10, I don't know, God, you could come up to the top 102 and get some positive pitch to your manhole where your drainage system is, and then heading back out. I think, and you're going to eliminate that entire impacted line that's submerged all the way out on the right side of your building. I think it's an option. As Mr. Fowler said, there's options. I think this is one option. It's, and I would definitely oversize the pipe. I would go from 12 at 50. I may even want to go with an 18 because you're going to take a lot more of that water off of 38. I mean, the pipe itself, I mean, it's not a significant price and difference on 18 to 12. You're already digging. So I think it's a small price to pay. But I think that's an opportunity that you may get some benefit of that drainage issue, because there is always puddling out there. There's no question about it. There's historic flooding in that area.
Go figure.
Anything, you're going to get some relief off of that. That's something that I would pose that to Mr. Hardiman. I don't know if Mr. Hardiman's still on the line. By no means, it's just a suggestion. I think it's an opportunity we can get a workaround to make the project forward.
Yeah, I'd certainly love to hear Mr. Hardiman's thoughts. What I probably would want to do though is I mean, we have I don't know, we have 100 feet of pipe here, easy, maybe 120 feet of pipe and 4 manholes. If we're going to do this, it seems like there's no reason to do this here.
I would eliminate. My opinion would be eliminate the pipe that's below your wetland inlet, and change. You mean eliminate your manholes and upsize the pipe from 18 and recore all the way out to that existing manhole in your sidewalk. And then head to the left side of the property, west side of the property. You may, due to that, you may need to make your rip-wrap swale a little larger, but I think it's a benefit overall.
Jim, you might have to change that manhole 5. You might lose integrity at those pipes coming in. Can you
Oh,
come,
yeah.
can you come into that catch basin instead?
Yeah, well, so that goes into the subsurface system. Just call this a diagram. We'd have to reconfigure this. It probably does more like goes around this one and then ties in.
Well, that was my concern about tying that manhole, bringing into that manhole that you depict off of your drainage system. I don't want to, in a flood situation, I don't want to impact that drainage system, because then ultimately you'll back up your roof leaders and so forth. But as you're showing here, or even tied to that manhole on the corner, past the building.
Right.
It may be an option, but I think that's a workaround for it.
Right. Something closer to that, probably.
Absolutely.
That's probably a wash between what we're doing on the right side versus the left side.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just a suggestion.
Mr. Hanley,
Yes.
this sounds like a solution that can be addressed, but the problem is, has anybody reached out to Mr. Hardeman to see if he's still on the line? I know you tried.
I am still here, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay. Have you heard all of this dialogue?
I did, and I appreciate the guidance from Mr. Ryder. The concern I have right off with that is tying the town system into a private system becomes a regulatory matter under the MS4 permit, in which we have to regulate all of our outfalls, and now we're sharing an outfall with a private entity, which means that their outfall becomes regulated as well. So it's much cleaner to kind of separate, I guess, church from state, if you will. But I think there might be another workaround, to do so. It's just got to be investigated, and we can work with Mr. Hanley on that.
Okay.
To figure it out. But like I said, the kind of the director, gave me a directive to, ensure that the town system isn't compromised.
Right.
To allow expansion of an existing facility, basically, is what it is. 'Cause I think they've got about 3,000 square feet of space on the site now, and they're going up to 4,300. So, they're expanding their use. I just don't feel that the town system should be compromised in the meantime.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that two things? It would be easier for us, the town, to work with the private entity than Mr. Hanley having to work with the state. So being that doesn't have to happen, that eliminates that problem. But I would hope that we could maybe get together in the next few days and not come up with a conclusion, but come up with an agreement. And then after they come up with a conclusion, I think for the better part of everybody, it would be better for the town, better for this project. And as Mr. Ryder said, it would probably eliminate, based on numbers, the flooding that takes place out on Route 38 in that area.
Yeah, I agree, Mr. Chairman. We will have to work with the state, though, in conjunction with the design group from Mr. Hanley's office, because it is also a state system. It's a shared system which receives water from both town roads and state roads.
Yeah,
So
right.
all three of us need to get together and figure out the best route forward.
Hey, guys, could you run another pipe and put another drain manhole next to drain manhole number 6 and run a parallel pipe out with a dual head wall? That way, the town system would be the town system and our system would be our system. Just something to think about.
Yeah.
Mr. Hanley?
Yeah, I mean, that's an alternative. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, would it be fair to say that we're not going to address this problem tonight? Not what you want to hear. Not what you want to hear. Not what you want to hear, Mr. Hanley. Yeah, so, but is it something that you could address and be to a point that'll make the town happy and the planning board happy, and we can act on this in August?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is very, there's a solution here for reasonable people. So I think that if we all sit down, we'll come up with a reasonable solution. Understood.
Well, it's getting on 11:15 now, and we have an 11 o'clock curfew, I think. We used to anyway, I'm not sure if we still do. But, Mr. Hanley, are you all set to ask for a continuance or what?
Yeah, I think so. I guess the only other thing I'd ask is that if any of the board members are aware of any issues that they might have that we could address while we do that,
sure.
I have that info now, but other than that, yeah,
sure.
I'm good.
Okay, I'll ask the board members. Back to board members. Does anybody have any questions that they might want to ask Mr. Hanley to answer either now or during this period of time that we have to wait? Mr. Baccaria.
So I'm all set right now, Mr. Chairman. I'll wait till next meeting. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Delaney.
The only question I had was the snow storage near that driveway.
Yes.
Coming off of Route 38.
Yeah.
I just don't want the snow storage to back out beyond that fence or whatever the case may be, or be higher than the fence in the location that it is, to block the view of Route 38 for the people coming out of that driveway next door. That's the only question I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Delaney. And Mr. Delaney, if I may, I looked at that and I saw one other question that I'm not sure if you thought of, but where the snow storage is stored, if it was sufficiently high enough, I'm not sure how high that stop sign would be. In other words, would it be blocking the stop sign view from the car? That's all.
Well, the flow of the driveway, driveway is going to be difficult enough as it is.
Right.
If there's snow storage, if it's not governed a certain way, I feel as though, like you say, the stop sign or these different things. I don't want them to come back in next week, a month from now, and have to face this issue again.
Right.
If it's something that they can learn, do it now.
Yeah, right. That's why he's asking the questions, Jay, and I appreciate that, bringing that up.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Sorry about that. It's on mute. My only one was on the signs. I mean, this is a really nice looking building. And obviously it's going to be one of those buildings that's right there for the entrance of the town. And I'm curious if you could possibly have an idea of what the Hobart Country Store sign is going to look like, as well as the one that you're going to have, the freestanding one. Just because I think it's going to be important that they both look good. The way the building seems like it's going to look good, as well. So I'd be curious if they have an idea of what those things are going to look like when you come back in August.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
I'm the same way. You answered the snow storage, and then I think work this drainage out, and then the sign. I think we can address it at the next meeting.
Very good. And again, thank you to all the board members for the dialogue. Mr. Hanley, what's your pleasure?
Yeah, I think we need to, I'm going to request a continuation to the open.
All right. And I'm looking for my sheet again.
Chairman, if I may?
Yes,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Mr. Delaney.
In one of those things from DOT, are they, how soon, if you get the approval, how soon are you going to start building this building? Because it says something in here about, I think it's November 15th or something, that the work is canceled on Route 38. Or I thought I read it somewhere.
Yeah, you did. It's on page 1 of that permit.
Right.
Yeah, so the thing is, hopefully we can get this thing approved. If you want to get started, I don't know your starting date. That's what I'm asking, I think.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know what their date is exactly, but you know, as we creep into August and then we have an appeal period, I'm in September, and then so there'd still be time, but we're basically right up against it if we wanted to do this work this fall if we don't get approved next month.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Deanna?
So I just was going to the August agenda for the next
Right.
available time slot. That should be 7:10.
Correct.
Yep.
All right.
What's the date, Anna?
So, it's
August
August
7th.
17th.
Thank you.
We have a
And Mr.
motion.
Chairman,
Yes.
did anyone from the public need to speak? I did ask Brian if anyone was on the line, but
I'm sorry?
I don't know if anyone from the public needs to speak.
Yeah, there are no callers on the line.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you. We have a motion to continue this hearing till August 17th at 7:10.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the ayes have it. Is that all right, Dawn?
You should do a roll call.
No? Okay. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ryder?
Aye.
Mr. Battaglia?
Aye.
Mr. Delaney?
Aye.
Votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. We are, before we continue on with 181 Pine Street. Hello, Mr. Plunkett.
Hello, good evening. I think it's still evening.
Hey, yeah, that's right. Well, Mike, this is, Mr. Plunkett, I'm sure you'll appreciate this, being a prior member. We have to take a vote if we want to go over 11 o'clock. So, would someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Give a second.
Second.
On the motion. All in favor, say aye. Mr. Battaglia?
Aye.
Mr. Ryder?
I will say aye, but I'm concerned that this is going to go longer than.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
The other option is we push this until the August and put it earlier on the agenda. But just a suggestion, I'll do what the board thinks is the right thing to do.
Well, with that dialogue, we have a motion and a second. And I'll start again. Mr. Ryder is, no, hold up, Mr. Ryder to the end. Mr. Planning,
No.
Mr. Patalia,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
We're still now, this is still a vote on whether we go past 11, right?
yes, correct.
I voted the first time, so I'll just stick with that.
Who didn't I ask? No, ask me. My vote is no.
So
Because this has been a very long dialogue before. And I concur with what Mr. Ryder said. But Mr. Ryder,
I agree. No, I think this is too, the last, obviously, the meeting prior to the June 8th meeting, I wasn't there. However, I did watch the video multiple times and read the transcript a couple of times, and I still have some concerns that I think are going to go, we need ample time for discussion.
all right.
Mr. Chairman, could we at least take advantage of the 5 minutes that we have remaining to, especially if Mr. Hardiman is still on the line, to at least try to address some initial issues?
That is part of our problem, David. Yes, okay. Anna, is Mr. Hardiman still on the line?
Mr. Chairman, I do see him, and I know Steve Sadwick is on the line. I see that.
I am still here, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
Go ahead, David.
I believe that Mr. Hammer is still here.
Yeah, why don't we take care of Mr. Puckett is, the interest Mr. Puckett has relative to Mr. Hardiman's, maybe something he can address. So we'll take that time to do that. Mr. Puckett?
All right, okay, Mr. Hammer is here. All right, at least if we could address some of the issues relative to the requested waivers, specifically pertaining to the request in regards to the reduction of the width of the roadway and in terms of the radius of the street sideline. This is a situation where this project is, under OSRD, which is, special permit for the purposes and intent of allowing flexibility and creativity. So one of the things I think to the 20-foot wide roadway as proposed is that it's in line with the low impact development that we're trying to achieve here, which is in line with the request of the DEP and which would be in line with other small projects like this. Earlier tonight, we had a 38 watt OSRD project in which the width of the roadway was reduced to 24 feet. So, this is a situation here where you only have 4 watts. If you look at the configuration of the watts at the end of the cul-de-sac, it does not call out for a significant, increase of width, especially if 24 feet is sufficient for 38 watts. So I think that's a very important aspect, as well as some of the other questions that came up relative to the sidewalk proposals. There's discussion in terms of having sidewalks over on Whipple Road. That's in front of the open space area. This has gone through the IDR. It's gone through, a significant back and forth. And I don't recall ever having a situation where the parcel that is part of the open space, is that you're going to have a sidewalk in front of that, where it's not accessing any of the lots within the subdivision itself. And the subdivision is as what you would expect in terms of the build out of lots for production, for construction of homes. That's the 4-lot area that's up off of Pine Street. So I think that that's something, if we could get some sort of conclusion or consensus relative to those issues. I'll ask Mr. Hammer if he wants to add anything to that at this time. And if Mr. Hardiman is there, if we could also possibly get his input.
Yeah, if we could get some answers to those things as quickly as possible, please, because we still have a few housekeeping items we have to take up. Go ahead, Mr. Hammond, Mr. Hardiman.
I'll let Kevin go on that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just quickly, the list of waivers were received by the DPW in just the last iteration of the plans. That was the first time we had an enumerated list of what is being waived. And when you look at what's being waived, it really just compounds the geometry of the site, and it over time those waivers just add up to reductions in safety. We had another subdivision earlier tonight, like Mr. Plunkett said, with 24-foot width, which is the standard, which is what we're going for with the upcoming subdivision changes to the subdivision regulations. The fire department requires 20 feet for minimum fire access. This project is proposing 20 feet plus an additional 5-foot sidewalk that's contiguous to that 20-foot travel lane, which provides absolutely no safety to the motorists. The standard for design is you either put like a Cape Cod berm and a couple feet of grass strip, or you put vertical granite curbing so that your pedestrians are protected along the edge of the roadway, and that's not provided for in this plan. Additionally, the site distance on Pine Street is less than sufficient. It doesn't meet the AASHTO requirements for site distance for the statutory speed limit on Pine Street at 30 miles an hour. So I think there's still some things that could be worked through so that the safety of the subdivision is provided, as it's, for the residents that are not only living on that street, but also in that area. I mean, I have an office that faces Whipple Road across the street from this proposed development, and I know that there are walkers, joggers, cyclists going by on Whipple Road and Pine Street all day long, whether it's people during the day or the cross-country and track teams and other sports teams in the afternoon when school's in session. So that's why we put Whipple Road and Pine Street on the pedestrian mobility master plan. And I feel it's important to have sidewalks in those areas. Within the subdivision regulations, the planning board does have the ability to request those of an applicant. And I think this is a good opportunity to, leverage that request against, potential waivers to geometry and flexibility of the site. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I didn't keep it short, but I tried to keep it as short as I could.
No, I appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just, if we could point out that the fire department has approved the way as proposed as meeting safety issues. And, along the Whipple Road, there's nothing there to connect to. The town has constructed the regional 911 across the street from this area. There's no sidewalk. There are individual lots that are being developed there now that have no sidewalks in front of them. And so this would just be a area that connects to nothing. And again, it's the open space area, which isn't a parcel for access to any lot or to be built upon. And also, actually, I think that's the point to make. And I know I'm trying to squeeze in as many things as possible here just to see if we could get some feedback. Relative to the speed, there is a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign posted, which I presume is posted by the town. The section 17 of the general laws that's referred to, it talks about a prima facie indication of a safe and reasonable speed, which, prima facie can be overcome by other evidence. And the fact that there is posted there a speed limit sign of 25 miles per hour, and we're willing, in the initial letter to the town, indicating that the applicant is very much willing to work with the town relative to other signage to be posted, including notice of the roadway, other speed limit signs to be posted. That's all that's in the mix, so to speak, in terms of an offering to address that issue.
Mr. Plunkett, if you would hold on for a minute, don't go away. I'm sure you won't. But Mr. Hammer, do you have anything you can add new for this?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to add that we've gone through a number of different hearings. We went through IDR meetings.
Mr. Hammer, please. That has already been said. I'm asking you at 10 past 11 at night, is there anything new that you want to add to this before we continue this?
No, Chairman.
I appreciate that. All right, thank you. Mr. Plunkett.
Mr. Chairman, is if we could please get the first hearing on the 17th.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
I was going to suggest or request that we continue this till 7 p.m. on the 17th and ask that it be placed in between the administrative actions and before the subdivision rules and regulations discussion.
I think that's very fair.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we can do that, and I'll communicate that to Alex Louder. And it'll go at 7 o'clock, and then subdivision will be 7 o'clock. So we've done that in the past where we need to move things around. So that's fine.
I think Mr. Johnson was looking over my shoulder and read my note. Very good, Stephen. Very good. All right,
that was my motion.
That's it. That's fine. We have a second on that motion?
Second.
On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Delaney.
Aye.
Mr. Battaglia.
Aye.
Mr. Ryder.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So we're all set. Thank you. And let's wrap this up so Anna can bring a full sheet back. Any old business?
No.
No.
No. New business?
No.
No.
Correspondence? No. Town planners report. Anna, you had 2 items.
So, Mr. Chairman, I just have a question on 725. I think I'll follow up with Mr. Ryder because he wasn't present at the last meeting.
Right.
And you guys have all gotten a copy of it.
Okay.
The other 2 correspondence, those are just more for your reference. So, and then the subdivision draft is just for you guys to have a full month to look at it,
Thank you.
have any questions, and then we can, it's all going to be a hearing item for August.
Very good. All right. Thank you. And that leaves us, Dawn?
Yes.
Have we caught up on all the votes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Except for the adjournment.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Next.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, we have a second?
Yes.
On the motion, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, guys have it. Good night.